That hurt.
I'm tuned in like crazy, and I'm pretending like I know what they're doing, and I'm,
Articulate and intelligent.
Greg's a bitch. That's all.
I find them offensive as hell.
I've never been a fan.
Yeah, fuck that.
Terrible! Bad! Not bad!
Oh, pretty good.
Okay! Decent! Fair! Great! I loved it!
This sucks.
Yeah, you really gotta wonder how the stuff gets made.
Welcome to the Straight Red Card. We are back. This show today is sponsored by Vaseline. Vaseline, it's dermatologist tested. And this is cocoa butter, the new cocoa butter, Vaseline. Put it on your robin cock, and it'll smell like the beach all day long. All right, so that's a sponsorship deal. By the way, Brett, did you know that Robin Cock's dad was a professional soccer player as well?
Unaware of that.
Okay, you were unaware. Did you know his name was Harry Cock?
Makes sense.
I mean, really, we're of all the names you could use, you got Robin Cock, which is like you're stealing some, right?
Fine, bitch.
And then you got Harry Cock, which is unnatural. Harry Cock hair should not be growing on your cock. It's just
could be a description of the said bush around said cock.
Could be. Make it look like it's hairy, but really it's just the surrounding forest. All right. Love your backyard, Brett. Yeah, I know. It's
nice.
Fabulous.
I got a pizza oven right here. Gotta angle my thumb somehow. There you go. Right over there somewhere.
Yeah.
A lot of backyard back there. It's a ton to mow. I mean, I enjoy doing it. It's a good workout. I do a little push mower with the spinning one, not the gas power or anything. It's all manually done. Every now and then, scissors.
You know what I find really odd though, is it's nighttime here.
Strange.
This
is actually my West Coast home right now.
That's really odd. Yeah. Okay.
Up in the mountains of Colorado. It's not really West Coast, I guess, but you might.
Okay. By the way, just wanted to apologize for my tweet if somebody misread it for the show. I did not mean Timmy Chandler went teats up. I meant Chandler, the character, went teats up. There will be no more Chandler, the character, on any show anymore because, as you all well know, Matthew Perry perished. But, Brett, it is one of those things that, when I heard it, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense. And you know why I thought that? Because this guy has been taking drugs and
taking for a couple decades now. Yeah.
Holy shit. He's been in and out.
From what I understand, though, he has been clean for a bit some change.
Yeah.
And although still has some prescription drugs, some antidepressants and stuff like that. But he apparently had just played some 3 hours of pickleball prior to this.
Yeah.
Went into his hot tub and then
clunked out. But it's like, what's that old Louis C.K. skit where he's like, yeah, when, I'm trying to get in better shape because, I don't want to be one of those guys that when you hear about when he died, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. I want to get in better shape. So
they're going to bring up the story of him jerking off into a flower pot.
I'm not doing that. But, and I probably should think the same way because, most of the people who've known me my entire life, when they hear I died, they'll probably be like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, he partied pretty hard. Okay. So
people who knew you 20 years ago.
I mean, people have known me for since my college days. I've known sort of the same group of people. So that's 30 years, plus. And they all be like, yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, if he continued doing what he was doing back then, sure, absolutely. The turd in the background, and I'm surprised, did his dick fall off too, by the way? The turd in the background says...
Hold on. Before we get into this, I just saw another turd comment.
Okay, rest in peace, Matthew Perry. I will say that. I guess you can say he wasn't a schwimmer. Oh, Jesus. The horrible thing about this is, of course, my son was living in a house in the basement. And, of course, where the guy he was renting from died on the first floor. And, he let that guy, he didn't bother that guy. But when he hadn't heard anything going on up there for like a week, he finally went up there. Of course, he was a floater.
We talked about that, yeah.
Yeah, we talked about in the show. So it was horrible because I think it was springtime, so there are flies all over, and the guy stank. And of course, he knew the guy too. So that, and I know him too. Well, pretty traumatic. All right, the turd in the background. Welcome to the Straight Red Card. My wife and I had sex this weekend.
Oh,
All of her boyfriends weren't available, so it was my lucky day. She's dressing up as a nun tomorrow. Weird. She'll still have sex. Okay. Well, it's just an outfit. You know what I mean, Michael? It's just an outfit. So
it's just weird when you start adding in like sexy nun. You're like,
right.
one of the few professions you never really associate sexy with.
Sexy nurse, sexy nun. No. But it is an old act because let's face it, I played so I've actually acted before as well. You did. And I was in a big time produced music video for a band that I used to also be in called Gentleman Caller, where I am a priest in it. And I'm wearing the whole outfit with the little white collar thing. So I'm sure it's out there somewhere on the YouTubes, somewhere. I'm not sure where. I've never looked it up. But if you look up Gentleman Caller, you might be able to find it.
Look away, Derek.
Yeah, it's so small. I couldn't see it anyhow.
That's why I haven't clicked on anything yet. All right, guys. Mitch has come through again. We got bingo cards.
Bingo cards. Let's get to those motherfucking bingo cards.
Ooh, that's rough, man. This one had KY on it. That's no good.
Yeah, it's close, but no cocoa
Number
butter.
2. Here's number 2. Number 3. And number 4. All right, Derek, you're good.
All right.
Make sure if you haven't got the card, go on to our Twitter. I just quoted it, and you can pick out your favorite card.
Yeah.
Player game. We always have at least a handful of people playing.
We do. Also, it's odd, and I know, and we haven't figured out the technical glitch, but my background today features my fridge. And I'm not quite sure why.
It's not there. Oh, it is sort of. It is still there. Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that weird? I find that very weird.
It's indicating
Right.
that I'm hungry. Apparently.
I don't know.
I've got a turkey upstairs, cooling down, ready to be carved after the show's over.
Whenever that is.
Not for consumption tonight, of course. Although we dabble a bit.
Oh yeah, you'll make the sandwiches with it, the turkey salad with it, the
turkey soup.
Turkey soup, turkey gumbo, turkey. What else can you do with turkey? Pretty much anything, right?
Yeah, I do. I do a lot of
turkey pasta,
turkey noodle casserole.
There you go, turkey pasta.
Turkey. I do the turkey soup, and then just sandwiches. It's predominantly what I do with my turkey.
Oh yeah, all right. Your turkey.
Throw it in some green beans, take it to work, whatever. You know,
that's what you call.
Simple shit.
That's what you're calling it now. Your turkey.
I like to base my turkey every now and then.
Okay. Chris Gary. Hey, Chris. I swear to God, the first thing I thought of when I heard the Matthew Perry news was the dead floater story you told. It's not a story, unfortunately. It's a goddamn true story, I guess.
Well, yeah, it's a story that you told.
Yeah, it's true.
He didn't say it was a fictional story.
No, it's a real one. Yeah. I know. I'm just making sure people know that didn't hear the story, who might be new to the show, that actually fucking happened. By the way, I'm once again drinking a Leffe major brand Belgian beer, 6.6 volume by alcohol with a nice, slightly malty, sugary finish. Fuck Leeds. Well,
yeah, we have We Are Leeds in the chat. He said, "Hey guys." And then Star Wars Satan says, "Fuck Leeds."
Yeah, pay him no mind. He's Satan after all. That's what he does.
So we got some turkey jerky. We got some turkey gumbo.
Yeah, I said all those. I didn't say jerky though. I said gumbo. I will want to say this to him. Hey, happy for Leeds as a team. I know they're at the top of the table, not the very top, but hey, I mean, a lot of people, including the people that do all the shows, Connor being one of them, was pretty much sure that Leeds were going to be a mid-table at best team. But
I think a couple players that were expected to be leaving ended up staying.
But what's his face? The coach, former Norwich coach,
Farka.
Farka is doing Daniel Farka is doing a fucking great
good job.
A fucking great job. And here I cheers to him on that. Okay. So also
Norwich is hurting for Sarge to get back.
Speaking of England, did you hear about the American hockey player who had his neck sliced?
I did hear about this.
He
And
died.
I quickly scrolled past all the videos on Twitter.
Yeah, you didn't want to watch it. I watched it as somebody who played hockey for 4 years when we lived in West Point, New York. I'd have to say the way that guy lifted his leg to the guy's throat is completely an unnatural hockey move. No one does that. In fact, your feet.
He's a figure skater too, Derek.
I don't think so, but that was that was karate chop to the guy's, with your foot to the dude's neck. And I mean, it looks bad. To me, it looks bad. And I guess the police are investigating it now because I know that he meant to do the guy harm. I don't think it was a freak accident. If you watch it enough times, that's not an accident. The guy wasn't like totally off balance or anything. He meant to stick his fucking leg up that high. And so it's not a freak accident. All the reports saying, oh, that's a freak accident. I don't think it was a freak accident because that's hard to do in hockey. Like you'd have to do that on purpose. Most of the people.
That's the thing with when it comes to criminal charges and stuff like that. Any form of murder is going to include some form of intent. Manslaughter is literally just doing the damage.
Right. But
now you have to decide whether or not you have to get enough people to convict on the sense that there's enough evidence showing that he did it. He meant to do something, I guess.
Right. And you know what? What really irritated me was the one guy on Twitter. I think his name is Paul Revere. And I noticed that his tweet included a black hockey player. He was who fucking cares if he's black, white? How does that fucking make a difference, dumbass? I mean, can you be more fucking racist about the topic? Like, okay, it's a black hockey player. I didn't even know what race is. You can't tell watching that video what the race of the dude is.
Look, I was gonna say I didn't even know. Wait,
I didn't know.
Wait, you say which one? Which one? The one that passed or the one that did the action?
The one that did the action. So he's a murderer, right?
I never heard it. Color was never part of anything that I read.
It should never have been. And yet this guy made it a specific thing he had to put in his post. A black hockey player murdered this other hockey player. I didn't even know he was black until I saw that fucking bullshit. That guy he should be, I don't know. Somebody needs to slap that dude, that Paul Revere dude. He's a fucking idiot.
This is basically what I said, BMR.
Thought Paul Revere died in like 798. Yeah, this is a different dumbass on Twitter. I don't know who he is. It just ended up in my feed. And I'm like, okay, I heard about it already, and I'd already read about what had happened. And then he comes out and it's like, yeah, black guy did it. Like, who fucking cares? He's a hockey player. That's all I knew at the time. Now I know that the dude that did it was black. It doesn't change my opinion whatsoever. And if it changes yours, Paul Revere, then you got a serious fucking problem you're going to need to look into. All right. Chris Gary says, I don't know, Derek. It's such a quick play. In a split second, it's hard for me to believe there was intent to injure. Definitely not to kill. There was intent to injure. I know, but the legal, I'm not trying to be a lawyer here, but if there's intent to injure, let's say I had a gun and I didn't mean to kill someone, but I meant to injure someone and I shot him in the fucking leg. Well, it hit a main artery and they bled out and died before we got him to the hospital. I'm like, oh man, shit, I was just trying to injure him. I'd still be liable for that guy's death. Yeah. That's still like second degree or third degree or whatever you want to call it. Murder.
Kicking a guy may not necessarily warrant such an investigation, but when you got samurai swords attached to the bottom of your feet, it's a different question. Different.
Listen,
I'm no expert on the matter. I'm just talking on my ass.
Well, I'll say this about hockey blades. So hockey blades, people don't know the edges. The bottom of the blade is flat. People don't know that. It's flat. It's the corners that are sharpened, right? On both corners. All right. So you can push off because you don't really ice skate flat. Your feet are always at an angle. So you're pushing off and shit. So that's where the sharp part is. So, I mean, listen, it is sort of freakish in the way that even if you stuck it up there, you wouldn't think that would happen.
Yeah. So I guess it's a misconception because me not being an ice skater or a hockey player or anything like that, I would have just assumed that is it just hockey skates that are flat on the bottom, or is it?
I mean, we're
professional
talking
ice skaters too.
Yes, we're talking flat in the sense that it's still really thin,
Sure,
but the sharp parts are on the outside of the bottom, not
gotcha.
the bottom, right? So it's not like a knife per se, but it's like maybe two knives just on either edge. So yeah, I mean, it's tragic, and I didn't watch the aftermath. I just watched the video of the act, and then I didn't watch for him to be, because I don't think he makes it to the bench. Like, the ref immediately stops the game, picks him up off the ground because this guy's ready to go play again, and looks at him and goes, "Holy fuck, hey, you're coming with me, buddy." And that's when I stopped watching. I didn't want to watch him bleed out and all that shit.
No.
Jose Lopez says Paul Revere is the Beastie Boys song. I thought it is. Zig, 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 zig. How's that? Is that bringing back the memories at all? All right.
I keep bringing up Chris Gary here because I know he's a resident hockey fan too.
But in the context of
like a third of his feet is hockey. So,
but in the context of a hockey game, it'll be hard to prove anything. That's the problem. If anybody knows hockey, knows that is extremely odd. But you don't see people lifting their legs up like that towards a player's head.
In the context of a jury of your peers, I would wager none of them played hockey, most likely, and maybe only one of them probably enjoys watching hockey.
But you'll get a lawyer, and he will get somebody on the stand to explain why this is an extremely unnatural and damning, as he puts it here, act. I mean, listen, I feel bad for everybody involved because I doubt this guy meant to kill him. He wanted to hurt him, though. There was intent there. He wanted to hurt him and stop him because he was the last guy standing in defense.
See, the problem there is when you start throwing the word intent as far as just hurting, and it happens to in the kill in the process. You're talking about going from manslaughter up to murder, one of the degrees. Of course, if there is a prosecutor that's actually planning on taking this to court, then they're never going to push for murder one, of course.
No, I mean, it's going to really be hard for a prosecutor to look at that, especially with all the press and the media coming out and saying it was a freak accident, except for a couple articles that are like, didn't look like a freak accident to me. Looked like he did that shit on purpose. So, and that's why the investigation began today on the other skater whose name is, you know what, I'm not even going to say his name because he's getting enough hate tweets as it is. So we'll leave it at that.
What if there's going to be a question as far as jurisdiction in that sense? So,
well, I think
England, but it's an American event, so who knows?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can't murder even a foreigner in England. That's still murder. So
that's true.
It's kind
of. I guess I have no idea what their. So again, would the charges then be dubbed on the English legislature, whatever?
Legislature?
Yeah. No, that's the word I was wanting to say.
They have their own law system, and it's different from ours, but a lot of the basics are the same. I don't know what the degrees and levels of murder are there, and how they're distinct there, and how different they are in the distinctions we make here in the United States. So I don't know. I'm just keep my eye on it. It's horrible. It's one of those horrible things you hate to see.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, for a football fact, I have not watched it yet, but I've seen the commercial Messi Meets America. Excuse me, Brett, but what's that continent that Lionel Messi was born on? What was that called?
South America.
What? Say again, what's the last word in that? America. How does Messi meet America? He was fucking born there. He plays the qualifying matches there. How is he meeting America? Maybe you mean North America? I don't know.
I'm not taking a side in this argument because I generally fall in the line of whenever anybody says America, they're referring to the United States of America, and not necessarily the 20 to 30 other countries that conside of all of America.
Well, that's a massively arrogant way to look at the world.
The world looks at it like that, Derek. Go anywhere in the country and say, I'm from America. Where do they think you're from? guarantee you they're going to say, "Oh, you're from the United States of America." And they're going to say, "Oh, you're from Brazil."
That's,
Nobody thinks like that.
I don't know. I don't know, but I just don't like the title. Like they just didn't think about it because he is American. He's not United States American, but he's Argentinian and he lives in South America, which makes him an American as well. I just think technically that's a bad title for it. They could have come up with something else, like, I don't know, Messi meets Miami or Messi meets the United States. Not America. All right. He's already met America.
When you hear Americans, do you generally think South Americans whenever you talk about Americans in Europe playing soccer?
Well, then the rest of the world's just fucked up. Because I'm sorry, we're all Americans. That's what we are. So
no, I'm not disagreeing with you, Derek. I'm just saying when it comes to this argument, I tend to fall in the line of saying the 99.9% of the world, when they hear America or Americans or whatever, they're thinking people from the United States. They're not even thinking people from Canada for that fucking matter. And that's practically America Junior.
This is funny you bring this up because who's the Mexican player at Feyenoord again? God damn it. Alvarez. Who was that?
Jimenez.
No.
Feyenoord?
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. I might be getting confused with the center forward for Fulham. Are they the same name? Anyhow, my brain's broken.
Wait,
so
did I fuck that up? Yeah, Santi.
Know.
Yeah, Santi Jimenez.
Santi, thank you. Okay, Santi Jimenez. So Santi is doing this interview with the Dutch press after a game. And the Dutch guy's like, how do you feel like Mexico's going to do going forward against your South American competition? And he's like, South American? He's like, I'm from Mexico. That's North America. He's like, oh, okay. So Mexico's in North. Yes, Mexico's in North America, you stupid motherfucker. Between those there's a place called Central America and then there's South America. Are people this broken when it comes to their fucking geography? I guess so. Raul Jimenez, yes, is the Fulham player. I know that. I just couldn't remember Santi's last name to save my life. Even when Brett said it, it didn't sound right. All right.
You really had me second guessing myself, man.
Well, they're spelled differently. So I was second guessing myself.
Yeah, one's a G and one's a J, but is that Argentinian versus
No,
just same thing, whatever.
They're both Mexican. They're both Mexican. All right. There's several different spellings. Like there's different spellings of Vasquez and Vasquez as well. All right. Also, did you know the Pan American Games were going on right now?
Yes, I did. I saw that, and I had to get some clarification before the show started from you. I appreciate
yes,
that.
you did. You're like, shit.
I know I've looked up the competition a number of times, and I know who's in it as far as roughly the age bracket. But outside that,
I mean, you would never know this tournament's going on. You just would never know it's going on, which is fine. Nobody cares about it. But we got our U21s playing there, I think, or a team that's representing us. That's the U21s. I don't know who the fuck they are.
No, you know what I find strange about the Pan American Games is that we actually brought in other people from other countries like Brazil to play in the Pan American Games, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the American. Pan-American.
Yeah, we're going back. Yeah. All full circle, Derek. Come on.
Amazing. Okay. Okay. Hold on.
I do agree with you that's a dumb title. I'll agree with you on that.
All right. You all watching the Indoor World Cup. USA second. What channel's that on? AJ1410, whatever.
Hey,
for $1.99.
There's an Indoor World Cup?
Yeah.
Does
indoor
anybody else in the
World
world play indoor soccer? Or is this supposed to be futsal?
No, I think it's the indoor. Remember, the Americans have won the Indoor World Cup of soccer before.
I don't remember this. I didn't even know there was an Indoor World Cup.
We had a guy on our show who played in the Indoor World Cup, and we talked about it back in 2012.
Is this sort of like the baseball where it's like the World Series? It's not really the World Series. Like
no,
a team from Detroit against a team from Albuquerque?
No, I think the tournament we won was in Brazil. It took place in Brazil. All right, who was the old center back for us that speaks Spanish? Was it the 94 Balboa? Right? Balboa.
Sure.
No,
Sure.
no. Okay, who was the executive from New York Red Bulls that was on our show? He's also a former. He's like a right. He's a left back / right back guy. Yeah. Anyhow, he was on our show. He was there when we got second in one of those World Cups, and they were rotating like a hockey team.
I'm going to keep an eye on the chat, see if anybody's got it. But yeah, it's going to drive me nuts.
All right. Well, let us know what channel that's on. AJ1410. Blah 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 blah. Thanks for the $1.99, my brother.
And Soto is greater. You saved a couple characters. They're nice.
I tried. Or he did. John Stewart, by the way, is quitting Apple, or he was fired, or mutually agreed.
Was canceled, whatever.
Apparently, he was going to do some exposés or shows relating to China. And, he's going to expose them for some shit they're doing wrong. And, of course, he's the one who was the first one to come out publicly, really, on a comedic show and say, we all know where the Wuhan virus came from. It came from the Wuhan labs. Kind of like Hershey's chocolate comes from the Hershey's factory. And yeah, apparently Apple told him, no, you can't do any bad shit about China. And he said, well, fuck off then. Then I quit. And why? Because Apple sells more phones in China than they sell in the United States of America, which isn't surprising. They have a lot more people. Yep, they actually sell. And guess where they're all most of the major parts for the fucking phone.
Sure, that I knew. I wouldn't have imagined. I wouldn't imagine such a closed system of Apple being a massive. I guess China can control a little bit better. I guess.
Oh yeah. No, they sell lots of phones in China, and they don't want to lose that connection to China. So they don't want anybody on their platform doing a show about China, right? That's sad. That's really sad. That's where we are, though. That's where we are with these giant media conglomerates. They're all behind your back. They're not going to say it publicly, but all of them are giving China a reach around every chance they get. Hey, what are Uyghurs anyhow, right? Who cares about them? All right. By the way,
I was going to make the comment about the Mulan remake and Disney sort of skirting around the fact that in the background there was the concentration camps, but forget that.
Yeah, no mention
about that.
No, not a big deal. Hey, we pay them for that. Also,
although Disney has a lot of more issues there because China's not releasing any of their movies anymore.
Yeah, well, I guess they took a step
daisy.
Too bad. Also want to say, what was the other one? Fuck. How did this get on my feed on YouTube? The B-52s.
Don't know.
I fucking hate that band. And that Fred Schneider guy, I don't know if you've ever heard the B-52s. You certainly heard Love Shack.
Yeah,
but
everybody's heard that shit.
He doesn't sing on any song. He can't.
It's a Love Shack, baby.
All he does is talk into the microphone. That's it.
Yeah.
He does not sing. What fucking does he add to the band except jumping around like a fucking horse's ass on stage? Those girls should be up front, not him. They're the ones that do all the singing. All he does is go, Love Shack, baby. I don't get it, Larry. I don't get the band. Never did. They make me, I don't know, want to regurgitate. So if you like them, that's you. You can do that. That's on you. I can't stand them. And I don't know how they got on my feed. But out of curiosity, like I am, I'm an idiot. I clicked on it. And said, I wonder what.
That's how they get you, man.
Oh, and
why?
Now it's been
B-52. We got Sharks on our feed and we got B-52 on our feed. Nice.
Now I'm just getting all this B-52s live in concert. I'm like, fuck that. I don't want to watch that fucking jism. Fuck that. All right, all wound up today already, and we haven't even started the show. By the way, did I mention Robin Koch's father is his name's Harry Koch? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
We talked about that, yeah.
I know. All right, that's all I got for now.
I'll say, as far as briefly jumping back to B-52s, I couldn't name a fucking other song they have outside of Love Shack. I don't know what other song they have. But then again, I said the same thing about Violent Femmes, and you almost bit my head off when I said that.
No, I know Violent Femmes. At least I know one album. I know the whole album.
I was going to say, I know one song from them. And then the other 4 songs I heard from them when they were at X Fest or whatever didn't really catch me. But It was a weird setup they had there. They had the drummer had like just a snare and had that little I don't know what type of the drumstick is that has like all the little
brushes
on it.
They're called brushes. Yeah.
Is that what it's called? Okay, fine.
Yeah.
So I understand, but he was just up there doing that, and they each had I don't know if they had acoustic or electric or what.
They're usually acoustic.
But yeah, it was like watching in between all the stuff that's coming through X Fest, which is all alternative rock, heavy and punk. And all of a sudden, Violent Femmes are there, and you're just like,
well,
right, I know this song. I don't know the rest of the shit.
They were kind of early on, like an indie rock inspiration for a lot of people. I mean, it's basically 3 instruments, right? You got a acoustic bass, an acoustic guitar, and a drum. One guy with a snare, and that's it. So, I mean, that's pretty awesome. I think there are lots of good songs on that album. But the key difference between them and the B-52s is they don't have a useless fucking prick in the band who just walks around going, "Hey, baby, hey." Why is that guy in the band? Why? Fred Schneider.
What are you?
Fred Schneider is his name. He's a useless piece of shit. All right. He was in the band. He may not be in real life. He might be a great guy, a wonderful human being, but in the band, I mean, he was the gals. Were the gals?
Just call him a piece of shit. Who cares about his personal life?
All right. The gals should be featured in the band. Why are they always in the background scene? Like, he's featured. He sits up there, and then he'll play.
They really should be up front, shouldn't they?
Yeah, he's stupid. He's up there in the center playing some stupid instrument. I think he had like a kid's toy piano. You know, they're about so big. And he's up there going ding dang ding ding dang ding 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 ding. The dude can't even play an instrument. He's useless, completely useless. Anyhow,
Al says he's a scumbag. Derek, come on.
Al, if you have information I should know about him being a scumbag, so I can feel better about my fucking hating him, then please send it along. What if he's a fan of the show? I doubt that, although we've been surprised about who've been fans of the show lately. We found out some things, and we're like, wow, I didn't know you were a fan of the show. So, you know, I guess weirder things could happen, but I don't know if a clown who's that big of a clown would be smart enough to even understand a sport like soccer. All right.
I'm sure he plays the tambourine.
Shit.
Between that, the triangle, and the cowbell. Those are the 3.
5-year-old can play a fucking tambourine. Yeah. All right. So anyhow, let's get to the soccer. Do you have any topics you want to start on? Okay. Okay. Here we go. Oh boy, Alexi Lawless.
It's Alexi time.
Everyone freaking out about Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, and NHL having games on the same day, and leaving out MLS, who have a record-breaking year in terms of TV viewership and attendance, has higher average attendances than both the NHL and the NBA. Everyone freaking out.
So there is a thing that's going around where there's like one day where the 4 big sports of American sports are all playing at the same time.
Okay.
And they're like, NFL, baseball, hockey, and basketball. And everybody's like, well, where's MLS?
Okay. So there was some report on all the TV games, and then
it's named something. I don't have the tweet that has all of it, and they talk. All the sports media people talk about it, and they're like, this is the name, etc., etc.
And how? I mean, was it one of those rare days that MLS was actually on mainstream TV? Did I miss something? Because all the games have been on Apple for the most part. I mean, there's a spare one here and there that you can find.
Yeah.
So
they talked about, I think, like 40% of the MLS season was on mainstream, 60% all on Apple. But I don't know if any of that included the playoffs.
Really? That much? I don't remember. 40%?
Yeah. I mean, it's still on Apple too, but.
All right. Well,
I mean, the thing is, if you're paying for Apple so you can get the rest of the 60% of the games or whatever, then you're probably going to watch it on Apple regardless.
Right. And so Alexi says, I've long stopped being outraged when soccer in America is disrespected by Americans. These slights are no longer out of ignorance, but rather they are purposely defiant, provocative, and insecure reactions to the inevitability of soccer. So how about it? Go down swinging. So is he saying people shouldn't be upset, or they should? He's kind of saying, go ahead, go have at it.
He's saying, I don't care what these dinosaurs are saying about MLS and soccer in the United States. They want to leave us off because they think, or they're concerned about MLS and soccer taking over in sports. By all means, they can keep doing that. I don't care. That's what he's saying.
And they're going to go down swinging, fighting it all the way.
All the dinosaurs with their dinosaur arms. I'm under the same impression here because I don't care. I don't care if some rain. I'm sure they're very well populated and have a large fan base. But whether they're podcast shows, Twitter handles, whatever that just follow the American sports in general, but don't follow soccer, don't mention soccer, I don't care.
Yeah, fuck them.
Whatever. I don't care.
If they don't want to watch, they don't want to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, I just recently visited my longtime drummer in Nashville and asked him if he'd ever gone to one of the games locally. And he's like, I've seen the stadium. It's fucking awesome. But nope, I haven't gone to a game. He's like, mostly because I don't know anybody else who would go to a soccer game with me. So, I mean, that's okay. But, I mean, he'd be interested in going. He just doesn't have any that he knows that loves soccer that he could go to the game with. I'm sure he just hasn't really checked into that because I'm sure that's not true. But, yeah. So, yeah, why worry about it at this point? Because guess what, guys? This is a lot better than 1994, I can tell you that much. And 1998 and 2002, where, like, it was a joke. You were like the only one you knew who cared about soccer. I mean, it took me till when did we find each other, Brett? 2010 with our whole.
No. We probably started more like 2008 talking on the boards, and then 2010 is when we started the show.
Right
just before the World Cup.
Yeah, so 2 years, and it was not just me and Brett. It was a group of like 20 of us, right? 22 soccer fans, and we kind of all found each other, and then we became like best friends and shit. It was crazy.
Some splitting up here and there, but
some of them became big writers for big papers and covered multiple sports. One of them covered the NBA. So I'm not going to tell you who they are because they still do that, and they're big names out there who cover the sports. But anyhow, very cool. For at least that went on for a long time, that group, and then at some point it moved to what did it move to? Facebook.
Yeah,
we left that.
We tried to start our own site at one point.
Yeah, and then
it fell through quickly.
And eventually, I just had too much to do and said, I can't go back there because it's taking up too much time. Too much time on my day.
Done with the site. Just
all of them and the conversations, and I didn't have a job anymore where I could just sit around and fiddly fuck around on, and
that actually happened to me too in the end.
Yeah.
Although I love the fact that my moniker, as far as me being part of the group and everything, was me coming up with random porn video names.
Yes.
And talking about my porn history and everything.
Right. So we had a whole joke, ongoing
Nothing's
joke.
Changed basically. I've got a bigger area to broadcast it.
Yeah, we had an ongoing joke that Brett was a porn director, so that was hilarious. And then I was there as a dog, D-Rec.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Kind of ironic now that Peter North happens to be our benefactor.
That's true. It is a little odd. There is a porn star that does watch the show. All right. Next topic. Alexi got it right this time.
Yeah. Hey-o.
All right, Alexi. Keep getting it right, I guess. Weah has an injury.
We're going to kind of jump into the Yanks abroad here for a second.
Okay.
This is just where all my stuff's going into. But yeah, let's talk about the Juve versus Verona game. Did you watch the match?
I did. I thought that Weah had a pretty good first half, which is I was really surprised he got yanked in the second half. They didn't really.
My Twitter handle or my Twitter, my timeline. I was like, "What the fuck's Weah off for?" He was like one of the best players on the pitch.
Right. Yeah, and I really like the way Weston and Timmy work together out there. So
yeah.
I was surprised, and then I guess I was thinking, well, maybe he's injured, but nobody said anything because nobody said anything.
That was the big thing because they brought in was it Moretti? Is that how you say his name? Yeah, I think it's how you say it. Isn't that say his name? But they brought him in and they pushed Weston back, and I'm just like, maybe they're changing something.
But they kept the same formation. They just moved McKennie back to Tim's spot, and then brought in a new midfielder. So I mean, it was one of those games where West should have had a couple assists, really, and then there were some bullshit calls.
Dude, absolutely should have. So okay, so this is going to take us right into the next topic of that game is a VAR. Now, over the past couple shows, we've had some shows where we talked about where VAR got it right.
Right.
Usually for humorous aspects, like, hey, that wasn't a second yellow card. Sorry, it's actually a straight red card. Get the fuck out of here.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've had the ones where, like, the Liverpool Tottenham one. We talked about that. And there's always going to be those aspects of, like, the incorrect call, or that was the correct call, but oh man, it's off by like an elbow. That sucks.
Right.
We're getting a little too crazy here. First off, because before we even get to the VAR thing, we didn't really even talk about Weah's injury. He's going to be out. He's going to be out for the next international break, which is in November. So come whatever Copa and Nations League and all that shit. No way there, guys.
Yeah, so that you got to start thinking who takes his spot. Better not be fucking Reyna. It should be Zendejas, or I mean, I know a lot of people don't like Zendejas, but we got to pick somebody. I mean, is it going to be Aronson? He's looked like total dog shit for Union Berlin so far.
I think I don't know if it was Pete or Tact. One of them had. I think it was Pete though. Had a very interesting idea, and that's why don't we push Dest up to right wing and start Scally behind him?
You could do that, and then you wouldn't have to worry about fucking Dest's defensive problems, which, by the way, doesn't seem to share those massive defensive problems as often with PSV recently. I think he's been doing pretty well there. So,
as a whole with the United States, I don't think he really suffers from huge deficits of the defense anyways. I mean, there are moments, yes.
Germany.
But most of the time we sit there and it's like, oh man, Dest is not good at defense, and then all of a sudden he's perfectly fine in the defense. He's not the world's best back by any means, and he does like to get up into the attack.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea.
Kind of blown out of the proportion, but yeah, I think it's an interesting concept because who else you brought up Zendejas, and yes, I know he's on fire. He scored a great goal according to Tact this past weekend, and then you have Aronson, who's, I mean. Yeah, I know that in the past couple of games he's played for us, he's gotten a goal and assist. The last one, not this past one, but the previous one. But he had a good game against Germany. But is that who we want to throw out there as the starter for that immediately? I don't know.
I mean, if he can't get over his club blues, which is where he's stuck right now, sort of in almost a downward spiral. It's not getting any better. At least he didn't miss a fucking sitter this weekend. But because he's missed sitters in 3 games in a row. So that just can't continue. It just can't. 3 games in a row he played, not 3 games in a row for Union Berlin. So yeah, Booth is an option. Paredes likes to play, but maybe he can play on the right because I think he did. Did he play on the right? I think he played on the right this weekend. Yes, this weekend.
This weekend? Oh.
Yeah, he played on the right. So that's an option.
Briefly, while we're talking about Paredes, when I know that you watched the game too, the Mönchengladbach versus Heidenheim game.
Yeah,
like the first 10 minutes of it was the Wolfsburg game. I'm like sitting there going, like, what the fuck's happening here? Is this me? Is it just me?
So I'm watching, and I texted you because I'm watching the Mönchengladbach game. Yeah,
I already watched it, but I was like, oh, that totally fucked me up, man.
They keep talking about Paredes. And I'm like, what the fuck? Paredes doesn't play for either of these teams.
It threw me for a loop because I think was it Heidenheim or Gladbach? One of the teams just played Wolfsburg the previous weekend.
Right.
So I thought maybe they're kind of going back over that previous game that insert team played and how they did and everything like that. But it's like 10 minutes in, I'm like, they're not actually broadcasting the audio for this game.
They're not. They totally fucked it up for 8 minutes. And, what's funny, I thought it'd be like the old days. When you're plugging into different amps and then you're plugging into monitors and when you're recording in a studio, sometimes you get your wires crossed. and you thought the bass was on track 3, but it ends up on track 4, and then the guitar that you thought was on 4 is actually on 3, and it's all fucked up, and you're like, oh shit, yeah, I just plugged those into the wrong, and so you just take one out, take the other one out, and you switch them and you put them in. But no, that wasn't the problem, because then I watched the Wolfsburg game with Paredes, and it was the correct broadcast. They had I thought I thought the first 8 minutes of that would be fucked up too, because they just got their wires crossed, but they didn't. They just fucked up, which is hilarious. I don't even know how you do that. I don't know how that's done.
I love how they scrambled and they realized like 6 minutes in, all of a sudden it went to nothing.
It went
and then the audio came back in, and it was still a Wolfsburg game, and then it went back out, and then it came back in, and it was finally switched over.
It went to some weird music. It was like a child song for a while. You're like,
we'll be right back.
It should have been
experiencing technical difficulties.
Man, yeah, but at least they figured it out after 8 minutes. I'm sure somebody got a phone call. Yeah, dude, you fucked that up. Yeah. Wrong audio for the wrong game.
Timmy the intern's been fired because of it. Thanks.
I doubt it. But Booth is an option because he likes playing outright. Let's hope he can stay healthy. He did play this weekend. He went 60 minutes, somewhere around there, for Utrecht. And, I don't think he's back to where he was yet last season when he was just killing it. So we'll have to wait and see if he can get back there again. I feel like he kind of lost his groove because of all the injuries at the end of last season, and then this season. At the start of the season, he started the first game and bam, just an immediate injury right away. So we'll see what happens there. And then Koleosho is not going to be ours.
Not November, at least.
Anytime soon. He's going to wait, and he has got every right to wait to make his decision. He wants to see his future with the Italian national team and sniff that out and see if that's really a realistic thing. I think for a lot of these players, their allegiances can be split, and they're okay with that. They love the United States. They love Italy. It's just a matter of which team works better for them and which team is going to offer them a more long-term opportunity.
Yeah. Whenever we talk about that whole split, this always takes me back to Rossi. And that when he had a quote well after his time with Italy and all of his injuries and stuff like that. He goes, "Yeah, I felt like anytime I was back in the States, I never felt more Italian. But whenever I played for the Italian national team, I never felt more American."
Right. Sometimes you don't have a home.
Yeah, it's like one of those things. Like I know that he felt both. And this is with all duels, quite frankly.
Yeah, Mexican players feel the same way.
Both, but you feel a stronger connection one way, but then at times you're going to feel the other way. I mean,
right. It isn't as black and white as Landon Donovan makes it out. And being a dual nap myself, I can tell you when I first moved to this country, and I had a German accent because I learned how to speak English from my mom, who my dad was never home. He was a commander, so he's out there in the field. He came home. But, I ate dinner with him, and then I went to bed. I was a young child. So, yeah, I learned how to speak English with my mom. My mom still has an accent, which Brett can attest to. And so I had to learn how to get rid of that because when I first moved to the States, they made fun of me for it. So there you go. So, Nate, Weir's Picky says, Dest at wing with Scally behind is a legit plan. It is. I agree, Nate. I'm for it. Because Gio can stay home as a 10, and our fullbacks don't need to bomb forward, very similar to the first half of Germany and Ghana. Totally agree, and that would make the most sense, but I gotta still worry about Greg and what the fuck Greg's gonna do.
And we'd still have the left back, regardless of who's playing out there, going up the pitch. Because Jedi and Lund both enjoy, it seems like, getting up.
Well, the thing is, and this is something, we've seen the U.S. do, especially in the World Cup. When one back bombed up, the other one stayed home.
Yeah. Well,
we didn't have both bombing up at the same time.
Exactly. And given that Scally is more reserved, in that sense, he'll get up in the attack. And he did it in the match against Heidenheim periodically. But he does offer the ability of being a stable reserved back that allows the opposite back to get up into the attack and keep our offensive midfielders higher up.
We should probably talk about Scally went 90, by the way, for
We'll
Mönchengladbach.
come back to the VAR in a little bit because that's not necessarily team based, but this is a good transition. Yeah, right.
Yeah, but Scally went 90. Pefok went like 87 and was holding his dingling when he was coming off his crotch area. So I don't know if he
pulled the left testicle.
Well, it could be a legit pulled left testicle or near it, a groin. So hopefully that's not serious. Not that he's going to come play for us anytime, but for Gladbach's sake, because it seems like they settled on him after trying some other guys out when it didn't seem like Pefok was working. But I can tell you this about Pefok. He should have had a goal. It was cleared off the line.
He did get a goal. What are you talking about?
No, he didn't. It was a great header.
He scored the first goal.
No, he didn't.
He scored the first goal. He almost had a second goal that was saved off.
No, he didn't score any.
Oh,
all right, let's look it up. Look it up.
I will.
All right. If he would have scored a goal, then I must have taken a shit or a piss and missed it because I watched the game. I don't remember him scoring. I remember the header that was cleared off the line. I remember Joe Scally getting off corner kick, getting burned, almost giving up a goal. So he did get back, but barely. But other than that, Joe Scally had a pretty good game.
No, it was Plea. I could have swore that was a Pefok that scored that. Never mind.
It was Plea.
Yep, fucked up.
This Plea.
Yep,
He's big like Pefok.
Yep.
So that's why you might have thought that. Thought it was Plea. Anyhow, so both of them had a pretty good game, I thought. I think Plea is kind of distracting at times because Pefok's very solid. Like he'll take the ball down, get at his feet, he'll distribute, and then Plea sometimes dribbles too much. But he scored the goals, so I guess you can't complain.
Yeah. At least I'm getting backed up here. Larry even says they look the same, and I'm like, I could have swore that was Jordan who scored. I could have swore.
Yeah,
from
the TV, it might have looked that way. If you'd had the sound down, especially. So I would Scally. I would say
it was during the time when it was the third minute, so we weren't even listening to the game.
That's true. That's true.
Matter.
But I also had transfer market up. No, not U.S. Soccer Way up at the same time. So that's how I knew who it was.
I thought Scally had an interesting game because you're right. He did get turned like a top on that first goal, their only goal actually.
Right.
But there were still like two or three other backs. There are people that got back in time to try to block this. So while it was certainly on him, and it was in the open pitch, there were other people that were involved in the play in the end.
Well, he shouldn't have been the only guy back on the
I agree with you on that, but
so
it is what it is.
It was a team fail, certainly.
Yeah, and he was part of that fail. I'm not going to try to alleviate him from that by any means. But they stopped the first opportunity, and it was just the follow-up that got through.
Right. I do like the fact that Scally is being more aggressive when he's getting forward now.
He almost had an assist, I think, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I guess almost is a good way to put it. But he played pretty solidly. I have to say that's the one thing you can depend on Scally for. He's not going to fuck up. He fucked up that set piece, but not on the regular field of flow of play. He doesn't make huge mistakes. He gets his passes done. He doesn't expose himself. He knows when to get back. He smells danger and fills the gap.
I think at this point we've found his limit, his ceiling.
Might be, yeah.
He's a solid option for a mid-table Bundesliga team.
Yeah.
We should all be so fucking lucky.
Which is nothing to cry about or nothing to look down on. Listen, I mean, that's amazing to be good enough.
Who? Oh, if that was my career, oh, geez, I'd be in tears every night.
Yeah, exactly. But anyhow, yep. So that was that. All right, what else we got?
Real quick, while we're talking about Heidenheim and Gladbach. Maloney. I thought Maloney had a Maloney game, and I think this is pretty consistent with Heidenheim's performances.
That's so true.
He doesn't do anything spectacular, but he's consistent enough to get back on the defense. He's creating opportunities and not opportunities. He's offering opportunities for outlets,
right?
And he's covering a lot of ground. I hate to say that because it sounds just basically what everybody else says, but it's not like he had a bad game.
No,
It's not like he had a great game, but he didn't have a bad game. He was there.
That's why he holds the record for covering the most space in the Bundesliga, and he did more of that. He's also looks to be like the leader of that team, even though he may or may not be the captain. I don't remember seeing the captain's armband on him, but to me, he's the guy going around motivating people.
Yeah. We're sounding a lot like Berhalter here now, just so you know, between the two of us.
Well, Berhalter,
he covers a lot of ground. He shakes a lot of hands, smacks a lot of asses.
Yeah, I mean, Greg was at the game, by the way.
Yeah.
Which, I wonder if he had dinner with Scally and left Pefok at the hotel. I don't know. I hope he had
his testicle rubbed off, right? Yeah,
he might a little testicle massage. I would hope that if he stayed and had dinner, he had it with both of them. I hope he hasn't.
I imagine all three of them at that point.
I hope he hasn't counted Pefok out completely at this point because, listen, there's always this thing. It's called injury, right? And it can strike at any time. You could have Balogun and Pepe injured. So now you're really going to have to consider who's your third guy, especially if fucking Sargent's still injured too, right?
Well, looking at him playing with Gladbach, you can definitely tell his hold-up play, his playing with the back to the goal the entire time, which is the Berhalter special.
It is.
Nines.
Yeah.
You would imagine that Pefok should be up in his ranks.
He's a Pefok center forward. I mean,
I think Balogun, Pepe, and Sargent bring more to the game than Pefok does. But Pefok's starting for a Bundesliga team, mid-table. He's again, his hold-up play is pretty phenomenal for given our options as far as hold-up play is concerned. But I feel like other center forwards can do similar but bring other aspects to the game.
That's true. I think Pepe certainly can do that, hold up play and distribute. But he is the perfect. Outside of Pepe, he's sort of like the perfect Greg Berhalter system
100%.
Center forward because he's good in the air. And listen, if you're going to continue Berhalter ball and you're going to cross 1,000 balls into the center, you need somebody who can be there to put their head on it. And that ain't Balogun's game. Balogun ain't going to put headers in. And we've already seen that.
I think Pefok is still marred by the Mexico miss when it comes to the United States national team at this point.
He needs to get the fuck over it.
Well, I don't think it's Pefok that needs to get over it. I think it's Berhalter and everybody that's scouting in this situation.
Oh, for fuck's
I think people still hold. I think there's still a bit of a grudge that people hold on. That could have been our chance. We could have beat Mexico and Azteca, which we'll find out here in a little bit. Wouldn't have been our first time.
Dude, all those people need to stop waxing and put their Vaseline away. I mean, just seriously. I mean,
keep the Vaseline out, put the KY away.
It's what's more important here is that Pefok gets back to some sort of form that he was in at the beginning of the season, last season with Union Berlin. If he can't find that, he's not going to play for us regardless.
Yeah, I feel like what he may necessarily bring to Gladbach in this situation would not necessarily be the buckets of goals that you would hope with the center forward, but the hold-up play that's going to bring in the rest of your team that are going to allow opportunities on goal and everything, which is, again, Berhalter ball-esque.
Right. Which Pepe
that's all Berhalter ever expected of his nines. Like, hey, come back, hold on to the ball, bring in the wings, and you just sit there and twiddle your thumbs.
Which Pepe can do. So he's going to always have to hope that Pepe's injured, which is a horrible thing to have to hope for. Or Sargent's injured, if Sargent's then healthy, right? Because otherwise he's behind both of those guys as far as Berhalter favorites and Berhalter ball capability. God, I hope we don't have to continue to play Berhalter ball. And it's pretty obvious that Balogun's being upset has made at least Greg have to rethink the way he played in order to get Balogun more involved in the game, because obviously Balogun was upset by that, and that is maybe why we saw Reyna play where he played.
It's a nice transition, too. Let's talk about Reyna and Dortmund.
Yeah. Okay, so Reyna goes in. He first has a great 10 minutes. First 10 minutes were fabulous. And then, he gets stuck out wide. I fucking hate Terzic, by the way. I hate that motherfucker. You don't play him out wide. Why has Greg Berhalter figured that out? All right, Greg's figured it out. Okay, we can't play him out wide. because that doesn't give him the freedom to do what he's going to do. It also, when you play somebody out wide who has the skills of Reyna, it's so easy to shut down and corner a guy when he's on the fucking sideline. He's got nowhere else to go but forward or backwards or to the right. If you play him out left, there's no other options. You put him in the middle, he can go anywhere. Left, right, forward. He's got all the options. So anyhow, it's frustrating watching Dortmund play, because it's like watching Berhalter's 4-3-3. It's frustrating as fuck.
Yeah. Or at least a 4-3-3 with an MMA style midfield. Yes.
And then, so we don't get to see, like, and you're going to blame, Reyna got the start and he didn't play well, so he got yanked. I guess. I mean, I'm blaming that on Terzic because he doesn't know where to play this dude. You know, and
by all accounts, he didn't play bad. He didn't blow anybody away. And that comes down to where you're playing him on the pitch.
He got cornered. There was nowhere he could go. What's he gonna zip by some guys, fly by them on the left because he's got Weah speed? No, he doesn't have that kind of speed. And by the way, he's so cornered, he's got 2 or 3 guys right around him every time he touched the ball. So what did he do? He passed it backwards. That's what he did. And there really wasn't anybody open for him to make. I mean, he did make, but it would all happen in the first 10 minutes. After that, everybody seemed pretty dead. Like there was no real offensive. In the final third, Dortmund was clueless. And so, yeah, he got yanked at halftime, but at least he didn't get the fucking halftime speech that apparently Tillman got. Yeah. So that's harsh, but I guess that's a good transition to Tillman.
Yeah, let's
PSV.
jump over to the Dutch League. Why not?
I personally didn't think Tillman played that bad. I just think he just wasn't getting involved. But he had some good moments. It's just he didn't get many touches. And that might be his fault. Maybe I didn't notice that was his fault for not getting touches. But apparently the coach told him at halftime, you, Veerman, being the other you're sitting, you're gone, you're out. And then in the interview, the coach is like, the way they played was unacceptable. It's like, Jesus, I didn't really.
He's like, I didn't have to go in. I didn't have to go into halftime and yell. I just said, you. It's unacceptable. You're out.
Yeah. I didn't think that Tillman. I thought Veerman was certainly a problem because it was his responsibility to be more defensive in the midfield, and he was getting burned. But I didn't think it was Tillman's responsibility to get back that far. I thought where Tillman was playing defense was about where a CAM would play defense, which is more at the top of the key, not like deep. Like Veerman was deep, but maybe I'm missing something about what the coach told him and what his responsibilities were before the game. And maybe he didn't live up to those responsibilities. Certainly PSV came back and fixed the problem.
I don't know. Every game that I've seen him play for there, it's the same style. So I can't imagine it changing. I mean, I know you're playing Ajax, that's it, but
Ajax who's in last.
They certainly haven't been the Ajax of the old. So, I mean, do you really need to change your style?
Yeah, I know, but with the players that Ajax has, you would think this should be a pretty good team. But you know what they are? They're chokers too. They should have that game should have been 5-5 or 7-7 or 5-7. Ajax had so many fucking opportunities that they absolutely blew. I mean, Taylor gets the ball at the elf meter spot, totally open, and decides to pass it to Brabi, who's a total fuck up. That guy's a total fuck up all game. Maybe he's a great player. I don't know, but he made so many mistakes, so many bad passes, so many blown opportunities for Ajax in that game. It's astonishing. They're just choking right now. They're like, oh my God, we're at the bottom of the table. And they are playing like they're deserve to be there.
I've mentioned it before. I think on Twitter, but Ajax won't be at the bottom of the table.
No,
they'll figure it out. They'll maybe bounce back up to mid-table at that point, but they won't have to worry about relegation. That's not going to be an issue. They'll figure something out.
I mean,
but they're certainly not going to be competing for anything important.
I hope you're right, because it'd be weird to see them drop out. But you know what? It would be like the opposite of what Leicester did. They'd have to pull the anti-Leicester when Leicester won the fucking Premier League. They're doing the very opposite and just choking. They got to choke through the whole season. And there are some shitty teams in
that's why I said they won't have to worry about relegation because there's going to be plenty of there are going to be plenty of matches where they're going to get the wins and they're going to, like I said, teeter around mid-table.
Yeah, who should worry?
It's fascinating to see because never in my lifetime, at least.
No,
never seen this.
I don't think they've ever been in the second division in the modern era.
Man,
that'd be news to me.
So what's gonna happen with their second team? They're both gonna play in the same division.
I think they'd have to drop
out.
They'd have to drop down one.
That'd be. Wouldn't that suck to be on that team? Like, we're playing second division, playing against. We're getting dropped down to third because our first team sucks. Why wasn't I being called in?
You know, the weird thing about that team, when you look at it and you go over it, you know, one thing Ajax always did a great job of is bringing back former Ajax players who are in their 30s, right? Who went and had a great career somewhere else. And then they came back to Ajax and they were like the core heart and soul of the team. Really not getting that sense, not feeling that, number one, that the veterans on the team for Ajax are leaders. I know that there are some guys they did bring back, but they don't seem like one of them was yanked with like, I don't know, 20 to go, 25 to go. Can't remember his name, but he was one of those return guys. They're just not getting what they need from those guys. But in the past, they've always brought back the big names, one or two of them, you know, to keep that core, the core veteran stability there. That's not there. You see a lot of guys just freaking out on that team and missing just sitters. And making stupid, maybe you would call them unselfish decisions. What Taylor did with that pass to Brabi, but that wasn't an unselfish decision. That was somebody afraid to take an open shot. Afraid. Yeah, that's what that is. Kobe, even Ajax Young is at the bottom of the second division, so maybe they won't have to worry about it, right?
Yeah.
What a fucking drought for Ajax. It's almost hard to believe. It really is.
No, it is really hard to believe. I've never seen it. I can understand, being behind Feyenoord and being behind PSV, throwing Aze or whatever in there, a couple teams, however, then toppling over them. But like bottom of the league, I would never imagine that. Even if you look at their bench players, you're like, well, they should still be competing.
Yeah, and then they've got like a caretaker. They don't even have like a manager that they could have lined up to take the job because they originally had Sparta Rotterdam's manager there because Sparta Rotterdam were great last season. So they stole their manager, right?
It sounds so weird saying like they Sparta Rotterdam.
Yeah. So they stole their manager and they barely gave him any time. They're like, oh, yeah, you fucked up, you're out. So I actually should hire Greg Chris. That would be fucking awesome. But I just don't think that's going to happen. They have better sense than that. So I guess
good.
I was just gonna say anybody that's watched Greg coach at this point, come on.
Well, we'll definitely get into that conversation here in just a second, Derek.
Yeah.
I guess while we're in Holland, let's continue with let's finish talking about the booths. We got the Mihailoviches.
Well, we talked about Booth. I'm not sure. I didn't even check if Mihailovic got to play. Did he?
I would assume not.
I would assume not either. I'm used to him not getting any time to play. He got, except for, earlier in the week, he got like 10 or 20 minutes. But, he's already crying and his agent's already working on getting his ass back to MLS. So why play him at this point if he's going to cry and want to go home,
Yeah.
So, hey, and it's not like he didn't get a chance. So they gave him a chance. He didn't take it. He played like a fucking little pussy. And now he's got to come home. I'm sorry. That's how he played. He did not take the bull by the horns. He did not say, I belong here. I'm going to prove that I belong here. No, he played passively. He played, kind of secondary role and accepted it. Like, okay, yeah, my job's not to be the big guy on this team. Well, if you're going to think like that, then you're not going to be the big guy on the team. Yeah. And you're just a role player. And if you're just a role player and you're not a great role player, because by the way, your position that you play is center attacking midfielder, right? That's his most natural position, which is that's kind of position's got to be a guy like Reyna, big and bold, right? Big and bold. Got to be big and bold in that position. He
Hey,
wasn't.
I'll be seeing plenty of Mihailovic here in a couple of months when he signs for Chicago.
That's where he's probably going to end up.
Yeah. So the game, Aze's game was actually suspended for some reason. I have no
That's
idea.
right.
But he
That's
did not
right.
start, and they were losing 2-1.
It wasn't those damn firework things again, was it?
I have no idea.
Because there have been other games this season canceled because the fans kept lighting off fucking fireworks and shit and throwing them on the field. Or those big ass sparklers or whatever the fuck they are. They're ginormous. And we've had them. We had them at Indy 11, and they stink like hell.
We had smoke. We had smoke bombs into that much. Or smoke, whatever.
Yeah, I don't think we had fireworks though. So
I don't think we did firework aspect, but
we had one
still
thing.
Enough that you had enough smoke going across the pitch.
You couldn't see shit.
The kickoff occurred after the goal. Then we're sitting there like, Jesus, I can't fucking see.
I know. I mean, there was an occasion I remember because I had to take responsibility for it when somebody did throw something onto the pitch that was burning. And so, of course, I got the obligatory call from, I don't remember if it was Peter Wilt or it was Tom. And, then I had to go discipline I had to go find out who it was. And then I had to show them the yellow card and tell them if they ever did it again, they're going to get another yellow card and they'll be out. Remember,
look, you possibly have figured out who threw what on the pitch.
I found out.
No fucking shit.
I did, yes. And they got a yellow card. They got an email from me saying, you have received a yellow card. That is a warning. If you ever do anything else untoward and the game's going forward, you will get another yellow card. You will be suspended.
Drunk, stupid idiot.
Yeah, exactly. And
Just be a happy drunk idiot like the rest of us.
Dude, we had so many of those drunk, stupid idiots too, dude. We had a handful of them that were just out of control.
As I say, my only concern with when attending the matches was like losing my voice the next day. Because I was drunk and screaming at the top of my lungs and waking up like, fuck, did it again.
Yeah, I know. The only thing I can be thankful about in my during that time is when I told people what they needed to do, they did it. They didn't bitch with me. They didn't fight back. They just said, okay. That's
I feel like for the most part, we were dealing with kids significantly younger than us. So I just felt like there was
younger than me. Yeah.
There was definitely a whole father figure. You stepped in, you filled in that role like, okay, I know. Dad, geez, fine, all fine. I'll go clean my room.
I did get that feeling too. Everybody kind of saw me as, you're the president of BYB, but you're kind of my dad too. Yeah. But they didn't rebel, which is nice.
What am I supposed to do with my hands? How am I supposed to act around you?
Mm-hmm.
Those were the days, man. I miss the tailgating when we used to have beer and used to hand it out before we got cut off by excise.
I love the fact that the local beer company, I can't remember which one it was like, it
was Flat 12.
Here, have beer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, hey, we'll make you a beer. This is good. We'll can it. No, just give us some nice. We got like whatever. It wasn't pony kegs, but what was the?
They were kegs of some sort.
They weren't full kegs. They're like the skinny fucking kegs.
Yeah. Well, it's free beer.
It was free beer. Yeah, 100%.
Can't complain. All right.
No, it wasn't free beer. We paid for it, but it was
dude.
It was cheap.
It was such a discount. It might as well have been free.
The funny thing is, we didn't actually sell the beer. We just said, "Hey, here's a tip jar. You want to tip us?"
Yeah.
People trust us. We made our money back. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, people were very generous. I'll say that much, because we were never at a deficit at Brickyard Battalion. I don't know if they're still that way, but we had
the excise when the excise came in and cut us out. That whole thing stopped.
Yeah,
we stopped doing it. So it was only like 3 or 4 years into it, and we're like, shit.
I remember the excise thing, but it was like definite. It was like, well, there's nothing we can do about it. So
it was weird dealing with excise when you're actually over 21. You're like, oh, I don't have to run. Okay.
That's true. That's true. I wasn't there. I wasn't there for the game that excise came, by the way. I missed that one.
Yeah. They shut us down, man.
I know.
Hey, can't do this. Can't do this.
I got the phone call.
You have to have a liquor license. Oh, fuck, really? We're not selling this shit. God damn.
Got the call from Gabe. Let me know. All right, what else we got?
I jumped to the VR, but if you want to cover the rest of Yanks abroad, we can do that first.
All right, I'll do that real quick because there's some we haven't covered
Not
yet.
real quick. Let's cover the AC Milan game. Did we cover
Yeah,
that?
no, we'll get to that, but let me get
Okay.
some other shit out of the way too, because Justin Chase injured, so he didn't play for Adio in the second division. Then you got his teammate did, however, was in the 18 for them, and that's an American, not well known to a lot of people, named Gennaro Nigro. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah,
How do you spell it?
Nigro. Nigro.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Fair enough.
John Hilton went 90 for Dordrecht, and Karade Osundina was in the 18 for Dordrecht. Again, we're talking about second division, right, in Holland, but still young kids to keep an eye on. Conrad was in the 18 for Ibar, by the way. He's back from injury. He did not play. They won 5-1. They replaced. They were so far up, they replaced all the attacking players, including the top 3 attacking players, as well as the center attacking midfielder, and he wasn't one of the ones that got to come in. So what does that tell you already about Conrad? Right? That was a great opportunity to give him 10, 15 minutes in a game. You are trashing the opponent, and he got 0 zip time. Yep. Luca De La Torre went 90 in a loss. Not his fault. He had a goal that was called back. He's going to be a starter all season because, I mean, he's obviously well thought of by his coach, but they got something wrong. They're going to be fighting again to stay out of relegation again. Chris Richards didn't play. Julian Green went 90 in a goal for the win for Greuther Fürth.
That's a big topic. Recent over the past couple of weeks has been Berhalter needs to call Green back up.
You know, he's another center attacking midfielder option. If
would have been great to have when Tillman went up lame, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not opposed to it. But Max Dietz, by the way, because he had been with our youth team, he only got the last 25 minutes. They wanted to give him a little break because he's been a regular starter all season for the most part for Greuther Fürth, and he's been impressive.
He's a center back, right?
Yes, and he was impressive for our youth team, by the way, as well.
One of the only impressive moments.
Right.
Certainly wasn't the rest of the play.
No, going forward, we were bad. Did I mention Schalke is in relegation zone in fucking 2 Bundesliga? I mean, if they go down to 3 Bundesliga, Schalke, that is a legendary fucking club in the Bundesliga, and now they're creeping to the bottom of the fucking 2 Bundesliga, dude. This is going to be
it's crazy.
It's going to be weird.
They are 16. Look at that.
Yep.
I mean, a win would bump them up to 13th, but still,
yeah, but for them to be that far down, it's scary if you're a Schalke fan.
Yeah,
Johan Gomez played 45, by the way, for Braunschweig, and they're in last place currently.
I literally was scrolling down the phone and you mentioned it right as I scrolled to it. I'm like, yeah, absolutely last place.
Yep. Brooks.
There's no rebounding for them. They have 5 points in 11 games.
They're fucking horrible.
They are fucking toast.
Yeah. They're going to have a new manager soon if they haven't already hired one. Brooks went 90 in a win versus Stuttgart, who had only 1 defeat, Stuttgart, all season long. And so Hoffenheim beat them. Brooks played really well. I know they gave up 2 goals, but, that's going to happen. And yes,
against a team that has like 1 loss this year. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so they got a great attacking duo at Stuttgart. And so, yeah, goals are going to go in. Was he at fault? Maybe kind of for one of them. Not both of them, though. Still played the most of the game great. Trusty went 90 for Sheffield United in a loss. He got a great learning experience by getting absolutely fucking toasted by Arsenal, just like spun around like a top. But you know what? Those games are going to happen because Sheffield United really isn't a Premier League team. They're just not. They didn't go out and make the kind of investments a championship team needs to make to survive the next season.
The owner just sat there like, I will accept our tens of millions of dollars that got flooded into us, and we'll go back down. Happily.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, some teams have pulled that off before. They have gone out and bought maybe 1 or 2 players and been like, that's it. We like what we got. We think our guys are good enough.
Well, that was Fulham's the previous season, wasn't it? They barely made any changes, and they ended up like 10th.
But of
So-
course, keep in mind that Fulham had been on that roller coaster for some time.
Yeah.
So they were used to the other players they still had were used to being in the Premier League too. And now they'd already been there 1 year. They knew what was required of them. So, and by the way, Tim Ream wasn't a starter when they were in the Premier League last time, right? He was only on when there were injuries. What did the Leeds guy say?
He said, fuck Sheffield United.
Yeah. Hey, I'm sure you guys have some sort of rivalry with them or whatever, but yeah, I could care less about Sheffield United except for that Austin Trusty's there. I don't have any feelings for them whatsoever.
Here, my whole thought process with Sheffield at that point is as long as Trusty's constantly playing, I mean, he may very well end up becoming a championships center back. That's not a terrible thing as an option.
Listen, if he learns a lot this season, because listen, physically, he's no less capable than Tim Ream. What Tim Ream has that Austin Trusty doesn't is wisdom.
Wisdom's the Asian experience.
Wisdom. Yeah, like he understands danger and he knows where danger is coming from and he knows where to put his ass to stop it from happening. Whereas Trusty's still learning that. Could he learn it and become a Premier League center back? I think he could, but that's going to take some learning, and he's going to do a lot of learning this season. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt about that. Also, Dwayne Holmes went 16 a loss. So Preston North End come out the box on fire this season. And now they're kind of, meh. They lose some, they tie some, they lose some, they tie some. Now, one, they win one here, but not all of them. So they're falling apart kind of in a way. Gooch went 20 for Stoke in a win. Reggie Cannon got the start again for QPR, who are fucking atrocious, by the way, which is another sad thing because QPR is a historically big team, or used to be back before the Premier League days.
Relegation bound too?
Oh, yeah. They're near the bottom. But Charlie Kelman got the place. He started. Young Charlie Kelman got the start for QPR because why not? Nobody else is fucking scoring goals. You might as well play the young,
out of 24 right now.
Yeah, you might as well play the young American center forward and see what he can do because nobody else is fucking scoring for QPR. Mm-hmm. And so he got a shot. He didn't do jack. Let's see. Brendan Aronson, we already mentioned him. He went 60, didn't do jack in a loss for Union Berlin, which has got to be concerning for Union Berlin fans at this point. That team is spiraling down the fucking tubes. And believe me, Aronson is not helping it. Then we got Paredes, who went 74. We mentioned him already. Taylor Booth, we mentioned 61. Soto did not dress for Klagenfurt. I have to bring him up because I like saying Klagenfurt. Cody Osho went 80 in a loss. Talk about Weah. CCV 90. I think it was a tie and ended up being. I didn't go back and check. I think it was. Slonina got a win and for Eupen. Or
first
Eupen.
clean sheet too, yeah.
Which one?
That's what Jack said. But
did we settle on Eupen or Eupen?
I will go with whatever you say it is.
I thought I said Eupen last time, and I was correct. But somebody else tried to correct me and said Eupen. I'm like, I don't know at this point. I thought it was Eupen. All right, so
we've seen Eupen, but I thought that I don't know. You said you had it right one way, and then you listened to Pete or somebody say it, and then you said that way. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
It was BMR. BMR is our registered know-it-all.
Eupen, right? It is Eupen. So I need to stick with my guns.
Yeah.
I can't go running off and doing Eupen just because fucking that's what Pete said. All right. But, Pete's traveled the world, so I thought maybe he would know. I have too. I've just driven through Holland. I've never really been there. All right. I didn't stop to smell I've driven through Holland.
What does that got to do with Eupen?
What I'm saying is I don't know anything. Like, it's not like I got immersed in the culture.
Eupen's not in Holland.
Yes, it is. No, it's in Belgium.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Once again, you're throwing me for a loop, Derek. Stop.
Sorry. Yeah, it's in Belgium. I have driven through Belgium. I've driven through the Netherlands. I've never stopped to smell the roses or the windmills. All right. Then we got Reyna. We already talked about. Balogun had a fucking shitty ass 45 minutes. It was totally made sense why they yanked him, because he wasn't going to score if he continued to play that crappy. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. Turner, so did not surprise anybody that they lost to Liverpool 3-0, but one of the goals was purely on him. Fucked up.
Garrett, real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll be right back.
You got to take a shit?
Yep, absolutely. So I'll be right back.
All right, I'll just continue. Oh, put me on the big screen. All right, so let's continue. Paxton Aronson did not even dress. There are no injury reports. So could that mean that he's just been played himself out of the 18? It could. We're going to have to figure that out. Of course, Timmy Chandler, he was in the 18. He didn't play like normal, but at least he made the 18. Maurice Malone went 23 for Basel in a loss in Switzerland. Here's a weird one. Griffin Yao gets a start at Westerlo with Brian Reynolds. They both go 90. They lose, but Griffin Yao? That's crazy. But a kid to keep an eye out on. So maybe he takes the step up and does something big. We don't know. We'll have to keep an eye out on that. We talked about Tillman and Dest. We didn't mention Pepe. He came in for 10 minutes. It was a complete waste of time. He might as well just not even worried about coming on, because at that point the game was long over and nothing really happened. So Bello got 90 for Lask. EPB has gone to Greece. I think he's still injured, because if he isn't, he has not been selected for some time for Panathinaikos. So that is not looking good there at all for EPB, even if it's just the injury, because since he's got there, I think he's been in one game. Kobe Hernandez Foster was in the 18 for Hamkam, but didn't play. That's per usual. Polvara went 34 for Aberdeen. And I know I mentioned some people were like, oh, yeah, what about Dante Polvara? He gets an occasional start and occasional minutes for Aberdeen as another option at wing for the Olympics. Maybe the Olympics, maybe. I don't know. Maybe the U23s. We'll see. I only got to watch 2 games with him, and that was the Champions League games. So it's hard for me to make a judgment based on, of course, he scored in one of the ones I watched, so it makes it seem like Dante Polvara is amazing, but I need to see more than that. No McKenzie, not listed on any injury list. It could be card accumulation. It could be pulled a left testicle. I'm not sure. According to Transfer Market, EPB is injured. So even if he's still injured, that's not good, number one. But, it didn't look like even when he was healthy, he was going to play and start right away for Panathinaikos. So kind of worrying. Mendez went 20 in a loss for Vizela. That seems like that's just like bad. That's a bad situation. But where else do you go if you're Alex Mendez at this point, except for back to MLS?
Back to? I don't think he has ever been part of MLS.
Wasn't he a part of one of the youth programs? Thought he
might have been part of the academies. Who knows?
LAG.
I guess it's possible.
I thought that's where he came from, LAG Academy.
Yeah, the other option would have been Mexico, because there's a lot of interest, at least at the beginning of the season, that he might have been brought over to Mexico at some point.
Dude, if he's not cutting it for one of the worst teams in Portugal, and he can't even start for one of the worst mid-table to lower table teams traditionally in Portugal, he's not starting anywhere in Mexico. Where's he going to start? I mean, outside of like maybe the worst 2 teams, the bottom 2 teams in Mexico. I don't know. Liga MX and Mequis. Zendejas, 46 and a goal in Mexico. But, that game was over. So he didn't get pulled for an injury. He didn't get pulled because he sucked. He got pulled because they were kicking the other team's ass, and they were trying to give as many players a rest as possible.
Basically, yeah. That's what I heard.
By the way, now that you're back, we can get into the AC Milan game where Pulisic was pulled at halftime for a pulled tenderloin, but he did get that assist with Giroud. So I thought, and listen, here's what I'm going to say about this. My introduction when I was researching Juventus was that Leao was the bee's fucking knees of this team. He was the best player on this team, hands down. And that, Pulisic would have a hard time competing for a starting role because Leao's on one end and that other fuckface who never plays was going to be on the other. Pulisic's been better than Leao. Every game, which is every one I've watched, which is every single game this season, I have been so unfucking impressed with Leao. He does not impress me.
Leao's lame ass attempt to chip.
No, I don't remember it.
God,
I don't remember it.
He had somebody going up the right. I forgot who. I don't know if it was Musa or something. He had somebody going up the right, and he had the Napoli defense kind of got back, and he spun around. Instead of playing it out to him, he just decided to try to go far post and try to chip the goalkeeper, and then skied it about 20 yards over the bar.
And that's the other thing. He's a fucking really selfish player too. Like, he'll try to take on the whole team rather than pass it to the guy that's open, standing 5 feet from him. Now, I don't listen. If you're impressed by Leao out there, good for you. I have not been. I've watched every single game, and for me, Pulisic's been the better player in 8 out of the 80% of the time.
Am I spacing? I know it's not any comparison, but what Rashika? This has Rashika vibes when you talk like this, Derek.
That's true, but Leao is way better.
Way better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said, not the same player by any means, but when you're talking like that, that has the same vibes that you brought up.
It feels
Which
that
you
way.
weren't wrong with. You weren't wrong when you brought it up.
Yeah, that's why Rashika's a nobody now. Because even Farka figured that shit out and was like, you out of here.
Transfer your shit.
So, but Musa went well. 90 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Better.
Almost had a goal.
Yeah, better first half than second half, but that's true for the whole team, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
to say the least.
So, but some impressive moments where he carried the ball forward, some impressive moments where he took a shot from outside the box. Holy shit. Did you just see that? I don't think I can remember the last time he took a shot from outside the box. But he fired it. But of course it was blocked. But hey, you don't score any of the goals, you don't try to shoot. Just don't. Oh, by the way, the funny part to mention, Napoli. In the 18 for Napoli was Jens Kajust. You remember? Jens Kajust? He was, I think he plays for Sweden. And he was U.S. eligible. And we tried to recruit him. And he just said, no thanks, man. I'm going to go play for my home country.
That's fair.
And, of course, he played in France. And then after playing in Scandinavia, went and played France. Now he's at Napoli. And he's not getting a whole lot of playing time, apparently. But, yeah, we made the right decision, not like begging and pleading for him to come. Although he did play in the World Cup, right? Was Sweden in the World Cup? No.
I think so.
Who was in the World Cup? Because I swear to God, he played in the World Cup. Or maybe I'm thinking the last Euros. Fuck. My brain's old and stale, apparently. All right. So I've gone through them all. So let's cover whatever else you've got.
Well, we sort of hinted on it when we talked about the Juve game about VAR and its attempts of going awry. So in that game, Moiskin scored the first goal that got called back.
Yep.
And it was called back because he was considered offside.
His pecker was hard, and he was just offsides.
I mean, can I get any closer? I don't think I can. Come the fuck on. That is a pixel.
Yeah.
That's a pixel offside.
Yep.
So I guess I had a lot of back and forth over the weekend with people on Twitter about this, and their thought process is, hey, any goal, any potential consideration, but any goal should be viewed on VAR to make sure you got it right. But I mean, you're looking at this, and how do you know exactly from when the ball was kicked? Because there's a fraction of a second from when your foot makes connection with the ball and when it's actually kicked. How do we know for a second that the Napoli defense didn't move up a fraction of a millimeter?
Right. In how do we know we're getting exactly the millisecond that the ball was contacted? How do we know that's completely synced up with where this shot is? I mean,
no. There's no chance that I
Yeah.
would have ever called this back. I mean, like this is legit bullshit.
This is not what they call
An
clear,
elbow,
clear and obvious, right?
full foot over. Sure, make the call. This right here,
It's not clear and obvious.
Jeez, this
It's
is
not
ridiculous.
It's not a clear and obvious mistake. And, had they been facing the other direction even, so what if a guy's got a woody and that's the only thing over the line? Seriously, at this point, are we counting the
He
woody?
was excited to get that goal coming up. It's like, oh yes, this is my chance.
What are we counting here? What if somebody's got a funky hairdo, like a massive fro, and it's just the fro over the line? Is that offsides?
You know what? Actually, the Napoli's defender, his shoe was actually untied and his shoelace was over. But this is such horrible pixelated art here that it didn't pick it up.
Yeah. So what if it is a shoelace? Does that count as part of the equipment?
I don't know. This is dumb. Watching this in real time blew my mind.
Yeah.
And then Juve went back and got a second goal, or would have been a second goal, but it was called back as well because 5 passes before the cross from McKennie, Moises Keane apparently had extended his arm and slightly brushed up against the Napoli's defender's face.
And that supposedly was so clear and obviously a foul to the face.
Yeah.
That was, I guess, intentional, or even if it's unintentional, but still, I'm not calling that back from the ref. I'm like, that's not clear and concise. I don't even know how hard that hit was. And it wasn't like his arm was in an unnatural position.
Yeah. Well, and how far back do you go? I mean, do you go all the way? When the goal is scored, do you go all the way back to make sure there wasn't a missed foul somewhere prior to a foul being called? So let's say it goes out of bounds. From that point on until somebody scores, do you go all the way back to that ball being out of play?
How many passes do you go
back?
back?
Do you go?
8 passes? 9 passes? What's the cutoff in the build-up to the goal? That's what I want to know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer. But I'd like somebody to clarify.
Timmy over there fouled Johnny 20 minutes ago. This is the first time they scored a goal. This is the first time the play has been stopped. Let's go back. If you didn't foul him there, that would never have happened. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I mean, what if a build-up takes 10 minutes? But in minute 1 is when this possible foul happened. The buildup happens for 10 minutes.
I mean, Chelsea and Berhalter ball would indicate that it'd be 10 minutes.
And it leads to a goal, right? Do you go back 10 minutes and go, hey, we missed that, and it was an integral part of the buildup because philosophically, or at least existentially, it was part of the buildup to the goal. 10 minutes ago, the whatever activity, it's like throwing a pebble in a pond, right? The ripples. So you can't tell me that the development starting 10 minutes ago isn't important anymore. What's the cutoff? 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 5 passes, 9 passes, 12 passes,
all the passes.
Let us know. What is the fucking cutoff? What are the rules?
So out of these 2 calls, at least the second one,
bullshit. To me.
At least the second one, I can understand them going back and looking it over because there's a player on the pitch writhing in pain.
Yeah, they are all pussies.
So I know that. I'm just saying. But there's at least a reason. Like, was there a foul there? Was there a foul there? But this right here, this is you looking for a reason. Now, I'm not saying that they wanted to find it. They're like, well, he scored a goal. Well, let's go back and take a look, make sure there wasn't anything there. But that's not the point. The point is if there's a concern, if there's a foul that wasn't called, like it looks like I said, the second one where he's down the pitch writhing, then you say, well, there may have been a foul there. But nobody was going back saying, was he offside?
Well, they're going to check them all, right? But
I think it's dumb. I think you should only check it when it's warranted.
No, they check all the goals now for offsides. But this was that's not clear and obvious to me. Like, we can't even see the other dude's foot for reals because it's hidden behind the other guy's foot. So, to me, this was not clear and obvious, and there should not have been an offsides called to overturn the goal. To me, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right. Done with that.
Stupid.
Absolutely. All right. Yes, this. So, my question about Miles being recruited by Ernie Stewart. and adding a fourth American player to PSV. By the way, it'd be a good signing for them because one thing PSV lacks on their defensive end is any recovery speed. Any. Like, it's the most vulnerable part of their fucking team is their defense. So I don't think Mallorca makes much sense. Hey, give our good buddy a call.
Stu.
Give him a call. Not Stu.
Yeah.
Not Stu. No, give Matthew Hoppy a call and ask him how they treated him. And Wolfsburg, I mean, not a bad idea, but is he ready to be a Bundesliga fucking center back? I don't think so. Is he ready to be a PSV Eredivisie center back? Yes. I think that he can handle. Because
sure. Between the two, yes.
Yes. Bundesliga, that's a massive fucking
that's a massive jump for him. Yeah, absolutely would be.
And you're talking about a team in Wolfsburg that is leaking goals like crazy. So I mean, it makes sense if they really think he can benefit them, but PSV makes way more sense because of the Ernie connection.
So there's the conversation that's going to spring up when he makes the move over, that you have the MLS snobs, if you will, coming out and saying like, oh, now the Euro snobs are going to think that Miles Robinson is really good because now he's playing in Europe. He's not playing in MLS anymore.
No.
His move to PSV at the age of 26, 27, 28 range, wherever he's going to be at this point. I think it's like 27. He is who he is. He can get sharper on his strengths.
Wiser.
And positioning wise. Mm-hmm. But his ability with the ball, various things like that.
That's done.
You're not going to improve any. I mean, right. He's basically, he's going to be him, but he's going to be playing at a faster pace. And maybe his thought process throughout the game is going to improve.
And he's going to have coaches talking to him about his positioning.
Yeah.
And so he can become wiser. And does that make him a better player? Yeah. Look at Tim Ream. Obviously it does. You become wise and you figure out how to play the game when you are, in this case, he's not slow, but Tim Ream is a slow motherfucker. And he can play in the Premier League because he's wise. He's technically savvy or tactically savvy. So he can, if he can gain that, right, he could, he's 26. That's like 6 more years of his prime, right? He could learn something.
But in comparison, he's not going to magically all of a sudden become a Tim Ream who can lace a 40-yard ball to start back.
Right. He's not going to be
his
that.
His positioning on defense, his recovery speed, that's going to be a strength at this point, making the move over. So I want to nip that in the butt, basically saying that.
Bud.
That's what I said.
They said butt.
Nope, I said bud. I know. Horticulture, baby. I know. I've known it's been bud for a long time.
No, I know. I'm just playing with you.
I probably said butt at one point, and they're like, "No, dude, it's bud." I'm like, okay.
Hey, by the way, that based on what you just said, Tim Ream could lace those passes when he was 21 years old.
Yep.
20 years old.
Yep.
Okay. So Tim Ream is not technically like any better than he was when he was 21, 22, maybe a little bit, but not a lot. It's not something, your point, Brett, is it's not something at 26. You're not going to become better technically. The only thing you can do is become wiser about the game, grow your soccer tactical IQ, but you're not going to change as a player. As you say, he's not going to be zipping balls and making incredible through passes all of a sudden or changing fields on a 50-yard bomb pass. That's not who Miles Robinson is. So you're right. He will be the same player. So we're going to have the same opinion. What we're going to be looking for is if he gets wiser. That's what we're going to be looking for. Nothing else.
And just like I said, just sharper as far as pace of thought,
right? How
he reacts, where he's positioning himself, that type of stuff.
Understanding where the danger is and where to position yourself. Yes. So I know that people are going to be, oh yeah, now the Euro snobs are going to think he's great. Well, guess what? A lot of the Euro snobs don't think EPP is that much different than he was when he was in MLS. He got a little wiser, but obviously not a lot wiser. And a lot of people haven't changed their opinion about Austin Trusty. Since he went to Europe, we all know what Austin Trusty is, and we all know how much better he needs to get. So, no, I mean, I don't know if people classify us as Euros now, but my opinion has to be changed by their play on the field in Europe. You can't go to Europe and suck, and I'm going to change my opinion about you. That's not how it works.
And with at least Trusty went to Europe a little bit earlier in his career.
Mm-hmm.
So that definitely help. That'll definitely help. Hopefully, over the long haul. Again, Miles, for the most part, I mean, during qualifiers for the United States national team, he was a pretty consistent back. He made mistakes, sure, but he was always quick enough to catch back up.
Right.
He wasn't the perfect center back option, but he was one of our better consistent ones.
He's fast.
We have other young options too now. We have other veteran options, and even players like CCV, who's an option to cover. And we're no longer reliant on him. But that's not to say that Robinson won't go to Europe and not improve. That's not what we're saying. But he's not going to immediately take some magic Kool-Aid and become a world-class center back. Nobody's going to think that either because he's in Europe. Nobody's going to think that.
Right. You want to make a bet, though? I bet next window with Greg, I'm putting down 80% chance that Walker Zimmerman gets called back into the national team, and somebody in Europe next friendly window, or what's the next game? November.
Next window's Nations League and Copa.
Yeah. So I guarantee you, if Zimmerman is healthy, he gets called up.
So it's November. I guess it depends where Nashville's at in the MLS Cup. So it depends. It depends.
I guess we'll figure that out. I don't know where, because this whole playoff system, by the way, this jackassery they've done, where there are now 3 games per series, where it's home, away, home for the higher seed. Have you seen this shit?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so if a team goes down in the first game, they're down 3-0, just pull all your starters out, dude. What's the point of playing the rest of the game? You're going to lose the game. There's no aggregate, right? So it's not like you're fighting for an aggregate. It's like who wins 2 games. And then all the games are going to be decided. There are no ties. So
you think that they got rid of the aggregate, didn't they?
They did. And there are no ties. So it's just like, so all the games have to be decided if they're tied on a penalty kick. So literally, this is what what could happen. You could tie 0-0, win in the penalty kicks, right? Then you could go lose 8-0 in the second game. So the series is not tied 1-1. And then you could go win the last game 0-0 on penalty kicks and literally lose on aggregate 0-10 and win the series because you won 2 penalty kick games, even though you got your asses whooped in the second game 8-0. 10-0 or whatever it was. So this is the silliest shit I have ever seen. And like, it didn't really dawn on me to go read about it. Like, I just saw a lot of people bitching and moaning about it on Twitter. And I'm like, okay, let me go look into this.
There are a lot of people praising it too, though. They're saying, we've had some of the most exciting playoff matches so far in a long time. But that doesn't necessarily mean the best of 3 is the reason for it. They're doing better and they're playing better soccer as a whole.
Well, that might be all fair and fine. I'm talking about the way they're doing this is like it's like baseball. It's like the scores don't matter, right?
Yeah, if you get blown out in the first match, who cares? Yeah,
just wipe it away.
But that was the thing, though. I was making the argument that some people were bitching about the system, and then some people were praising the system, claiming
I haven't seen the praise.
Best. I've seen some, and they're saying like, "Oh, this is some of the best playoff games we've seen since." And I'm like, well, that has nothing to do with the actual system. That just happens to mean these games were good.
It's just the system is unlike anything done anywhere else in the fucking world. And leave it to MLS to go, yeah, fuck culture, fuck history. We're gonna do our own thing. It's gonna be kind of like baseball, you know.
Apple needs to make that money.
Instead of there being 5 games in the series, there'll only be 3. Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. Listen, at this point, I got no dog in the fight. LAG sucks. So I didn't watch a whole lot of MLS this season because they were so bad. Even though I had Apple TV, I caught an occasional game. I flipped on one of the playoff games between 2 teams I just couldn't care less about. and just turned it off because I couldn't watch it. It was like there was no dog in the fight for me. Like I was just uninterested. And that's sad. I hate feeling that way, but that's how I felt watching that game. Oh well. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I started more I read into the system, the more I'm like, this is fucked up. This is weird shit that they're doing.
It'd be interesting to go back and see how quickly, because they talked about it, like how many subscriptions were added once Messi got announced and stuff like that at Apple. But I wonder how many of those were like month to month purchasers and how many people paid for the full year. And I wonder how many of them dropped their subscription when Messi was no longer in the playoffs.
I would guess that they'll resubscribe for next season, though.
Next season, yeah.
Right.
But between October and February, March, I guess March, I mean, that'd be like no subscription at that point.
There's no point in having one because the season ends after the playoffs. So, I did want to mention, this is one angle from the Miles Robinson thing that maybe other people didn't consider, but I certainly consider it because it makes me a little itchy when Ernie Stewart is going to add a fourth American to PSV. And why does it make me itchy? Because let's say shit goes wrong. Who's going to get fingered for that? Ernie Stewart, which I could give two fucks about. But the players are. And we saw what happened at Leeds when they started loading that team up. Who was hated by the fans? Hated Aronson. They hated fucking McKennie. They loved Adams.
Until he switched teams, but
yeah, until he switched teams. Now they hate him too. But yeah.
I'll say this much for that factor: both Tillman and Dest are on loans. So technically speaking, they will only have 4 for this season. Now, whether or not they pony up the cash and they get Dest in the off season come summer, I don't know.
Looks
will
like
they bring
it
in Tillman, or will they just say, "Well, that was a great loan spell, but move on with life," type of thing?
It didn't seem that way with Tillman until this last game. Well, let's hope the coach Bosch sits down with him and says, listen, this is what you did wrong. Here's what we need to fix. I think you're still my starter. I don't care what he does with Veerman, but sit down with him and just say, hey, listen, this is what you got to fix going into the next game. And I hope they work that out. And he's a regular starter because he played himself onto that starting 11. Tillman played himself and he had some great games. So hopefully that gets fixed. My other concern is whether or not they can afford what Barcelona's going to ask for Dest, which sounded like he was on layaway. So maybe they can, because Barcelona want nothing to do with Dest.
Sure.
So hopefully they can afford to sign Dest because he has been rock solid for them all season. He's a regular starter. They rest him for important games. And that's the only time he gets a break. So not much fluff today, Brett. Nope.
There's no fluff because Derek brought all the fluff.
I brought the fluff because, I brought the
music, the B-52s,
the Chandler, the ice hockey.
Yeah, the hockey thing. That was a good 10 minutes right there.
And you listen, not all fluff is funny. All right, some fluff we cover, and it's not funny. It's serious shit. So, anyhow, those are all. I don't know what you think about that. The worry that there are too many Americans on one team, but that's always. I was
having that initial concern, but then I started thinking about it. And like I said, it could go from 4 to 2 over the summer. Maybe they don't bring either back, Dest or Tillman.
Maybe not. Do we know who Midlife Crisis Pod is? He has a podcast.
Follows us.
He does. I love the content from both of your.
Sorry, I just had to pull it up.
Okay, yeah. Let's see who he is.
Okay.
Before we reply, podcast hosted by Alvin Schultz, epidemiologist and public health professional, and Jack Elker, chemistry professor and educational researcher. Interesting.
Sounds like they know their shit.
Well, their show survived the beer bug, so maybe they were. I don't know what that means actually. All right, I love the content from both of your YouTube channels. Do we have 2?
Tact. Us and Tact.
Oh, okay. But I have to push you a bit on your anti-Berhalter bias. Based on the metrics of result percentage and average goals for and against, he has outperformed any other U.S. manager. Yeah, if that's all you want to use.
Let's
It-
pull it
by
up
the
just
way,
take a look at it.
Does this not? Okay, go back real quick. Just one. Let me read this like Michael Camerman might. Based on the metrics of result percentage, average goals for and against, Greg Berhalter has outperformed any other U.S. manager of all time. Greg Berhalter is the best manager ever for the United States of America. Okay, we're ready for your questions now. All right.
LB, nobody's arguing against that, LB.
Smarter than you guys?
Yeah, these guys
What does that mean?
these guys.
Oh, dude,
Smarter than us.
that doesn't mean shit. Trust me. It does not mean shit. I could have been a lawyer. Trust me. I just didn't want to be one. All right.
So I guess the what he's pulling up here is something that a lot of people pull up, and there's an argument to be made. Yes, he's got outside of BJ.
Woo, no, according to that guy's stats, BJ is the best U.S. manager of
He
all
might
time.
be. Who knows? I mean, he might have been the best.
He could have been.
Look at
I would have taken him.
wins. He had no losses. 4 wins, 3 draws. It's a pretty good record.
I would have taken BJ. If you would have told me Greg ain't coming back, we're gonna have to stick with BJ, I would have been like, thank fucking God. Thank fucking God. That's what I would have said.
But yeah, so I mean, you can make this argument. There are a lot of people that do make this argument that, well, Berhalter. Why do you guys hate Berhalter? He's the most winningest coach in the whole of the U.S. men's national team.
Because it doesn't provide any context for what his winning percentage and who it's against, as you well know, Brett.
Yeah.
In the Age of Nations League, and that happening across the world, we don't get to play any big competition anymore. Yeah,
that's the big issue, isn't it? Because as much as we want to sit there and say, like, well, Berhalter's not playing as good a competition as we did in the past. That's true. But it's also not on Berhalter.
Right.
Berhalter's windows are consumed by our own Nations League and our own Gold Cup and qualifiers. That the few windows we do have, we are scrounging to find who we can play against, because Europe has theirs. You know, everybody has their own leagues that are going on, their Nations League, if you will. And it's not like it used to be in the past. And you can't sit there and say, like, Berhalter's not playing the top most talent. Well, it's true. He's not.
But it's not his fault.
Yeah.
But you can't use his win percentage as a gauge, because it's not a gauge, because we are forced to play little toddlers. That's what we're playing, tadpoles, compared to what prior managers set us up to do. Klinsmann took us overseas. We played away games in Europe all the fucking times against some of the best teams in Europe. Mm-hmm. And we beat them. Sometimes we beat them.
No, not just sometimes, actually quite a few times.
Yes. Berhalter hasn't done that. And it's not his fault. We just said it's not his fault that we don't get to go over to Europe and take trips now and play a bunch of friendlies in Europe because of Nations League and because of other commitments, because FIFA's fucked that. They fucked that up. So it's not his fault, but don't pretend that his win percentage is some way of saying he's the best manager that we've had, because he is not. And that, you just got to use your eye test. If you want to, use your eye test, and where you can't use your eye test, then maybe you're not, I don't know, maybe wise enough about the game to realize what Greg Berhalter has and what he's done with it, which is not enough. And when we have had to play bigger teams, we have failed. Germany, Netherlands, we look bad too. We don't just fail, we look poor. So, I mean, at least a half.
Going over, let's just start with the games, the records, the aways, and stuff like that. We can talk about the way they're playing, because Derek, people don't remember this. They don't. But you and I were not the biggest Klinsmann fans.
We weren't.
We weren't the biggest Klinsmann fans
because
of how he played. No, mind you, come World Cup, he played the way you would expect. But saying that, there are many games where we're sitting there like, what the fuck was that?
Yep.
And same thing we're saying with Berhalter too. And guess what? During the World Cup, he kind of shifted his mentality a little bit and changed it a little. And we look better in the World Cup than we did all qualifier.
Both of them did.
Yeah. So let's just talk about the games first off. We can go into the whole tactics and stuff like that.
Can I make one point first?
You may, certainly.
So before we get into the games, I want to say this about Berhalter versus Klinsmann. Berhalter is the exact opposite of Jurgen Klinsmann. here's the difference between the two. Jurgen Klinsmann named a formation, didn't talk about tactics at all or system, and said, go out and play, boys. Berhalter is a micromanaging maniac. Micromanaging maniac. Here's a system. You got to play this way. There are no other options. And he only bent that slightly during the World Cup. Otherwise, he's still Jimmy Carter, right? He wants to know what the tennis schedule is for the White House tennis lawn. He wants to know. He wants to know who's playing and when. That's how fucking micromanager Berhalter is. So they're totally different people, number one. And that's why we didn't like Klinsmann and we weren't happy with, when we're not a big fan of Berhalter, because it's got to be somewhere in the middle, guys. Maybe the middle is BJ Callahan. Maybe that's the middle. Maybe it is Bob Bradley, but Bob's long past. He's never coming back. He will never coach the U.S.
Never gonna happen.
He fucking hates U.S. soccer. Hates them. So
the federation, not necessarily U.S.
The
soccer.
Federation, right? Yeah. The Federation, right? He felt
Matthew is saying this is like using foot mob to say one player is better than the other. We're not saying Berhalter, Klinsmann, or Bradley are better by the record they have against non-CONCACAF teams. That's not the point of it. What we're bringing.
I think he's criticizing the other guy, not us.
Oh, maybe. Okay, then I'm misreading what he's bringing.
Because we're saying what he's saying. You can't use statistics like this.
I misread that. My bad, Matthew.
To fucking say Berhalter's a better manager because it's jackassery because there's no context, right? So he's agreeing with us. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right, so just jumping to the games, because the big point as far as like the record is concerned, as far as we all expect that we're gonna go into CONCACAF, we're gonna battle against Mexico, Costa Rica, probably Honduras away are gonna struggle, definitely Costa Rica away, but everybody else we're expected to get some kind of a result, especially at home, but that's regardless of who's coach. So I'm taking CONCACAF out of the equation here. And let's just talk about.
Can I say one thing when you say that? This is the worst Mexico team of my lifetime. True. This is also the oldest and weakest Costa Rica in my lifetime. So, yeah. I mean, you got to keep that in context because Costa Rica and Mexico were much powerful, much better teams during the Klinsmann era and the Bradley era than they are now. Like, they're weak now. They're weak. They're vulnerable. That's not been the case in the past.
It was funny. We had this back and forth. A lot of the U.S. Mexican American fans and the Mexican fans have been battling. They've been battling for a while now, but on X. But they've been battling recently. And somebody was talking about how the Mexican players that the Mexican league prepares players to go to Europe better than MLS.
No.
And I'm like, well, you guys have such a small sample size of that to prove that. Mm-hmm. And they brought the list of the players, and every one of those players, except for like 3 current ones now, are all like from like the old generation, like the 2002 to 2010 generation.
Santi and Chucky.
Yeah.
They're doing great. Like, you have to admit that actually even Dest and Chucky have a great chemistry together on that right side. But come on, they got the list of Americans I've got to fucking track every fucking weekend is ridiculous. I can't even believe we do this show and then I watch that many games. I spend my whole fucking Sunday catching up on games I missed from Saturday. Then I spend my Monday night catching up on games I couldn't watch on. So don't even tell me that jack shit. If I had to cover Mexican teams, this fucking podcast would be 1 hour long. That's it. It would be over in an hour because we would have nothing to talk about outside of a handful of players. All right. Sorry, Brett.
Sorry, this super chat was over an hour ago and I forgot to come back to it.
All right, I'll read it. Spencer Dearty, thank you for your $5.69. Wink, wink. Hola, Hoosier homies. Driving to Marion for class is like the last Behind the Crest video. It's ass. Also, Pete and Adam are on the desk. Right wing. Pete, I know who Pete is. Who's Adam?
Am I spacing?
Are we missing somebody? Who's Adam?
Sorry about that, Adam, if I'm mixing that up.
Larry.
I feel bad now.
Larry for $2. We can mutiny because Jurgen embarrassed bum Boca. This is when he embarrassed Bocanegra in front of the whole team by not telling Bocanegra that he was no longer the captain and wasn't starting the game before the Costa Rica game in the snow. And the whole team was just literally shocked when he announced it to the whole team that not only was Bocanegra not starting that game, he was no longer the captain. And Bocanegra didn't know it. And it was just the most offensive, heartless German way to do it. And he did it because he's German. That's what Germans don't really take into your feelings into consideration. Although there should be at least some basic
like to express their own emotion and feelings.
Basic rules, maybe, of like at least how teams work. I don't think you cancel a captain in front of the whole team. But Klinsmann did suspect Bocanegra was a part of that nasty article that came out right before the Costa Rica game. That's why he did it. We did a lot of reporting on that back then when it happened. Mm-hmm. A lot of inside shit that we had. And so I don't know if you can find it, but we knew who all the leaks were generally. And I'm not going to go back over it again. Well, we knew who Klinsmann suspected the leaks were from. Bocanegra, Landon Donovan being the most two important pieces. So there you go.
Well, yeah, that was probably the spark at that point. Klinsmann was looking for any excuse for Donovan's exclusion come 2014.
Correct. He never forgave him for it. Mm-mm. That was dinner table talk at the Klinsmann dinner family table.
Again, we talked about that last week. It was 100% personal. Yes,
and that's why Jonathan Klinsmann found it so funny on Twitter when Landon Donovan was cut from the team. Yep. So there you go.
All right. Adam is U.S. men's national team stand. I never knew his name. I've seen him on the shows and stuff, but I've never really paid attention to what they called him.
I don't know him. Should I know him?
He's on Twitter. You've probably reacted to him a number of times.
Could be. All right. Sorry, Brett, to interrupt.
Yeah. So anyways, this is just jumping back to the actual games here in general. And we know Berhalter's non-CONCACAF because we've lived through it, right? We've all lived through it.
Right.
Arguably non-World Cup teams, what his best team we played against really has to be Japan at this point. I mean, what do you got? I mean, excluding the current window of Germany and Ghana in that sense, but more Germany, I guess. But I mean, you had Saudi Arabia, Japan, Uruguay, Morocco, Bosnia, Qatar, Swiss, Northern Ireland, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
These are just not good. This is not good shit. And then we got trounced by Serbia. I mean, I guess I don't know if trounce is the right word, but we got our asses by Switzerland. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah.
And that's a team we should beat. I don't care if it's away. We should compete in that game. And Northern Ireland, you're losing to fucking we won against North.
Yeah,
that was away. Okay. Again, another tie with Wales, Uruguay tie. That's not horrible. Yeah, Venezuela's. I guess I don't know. I've not been that impressed. Frankly, it's not just that we're not competing the way I think we should. It's the way we play in some of those games where we're just fucking clueless about how we're going to score a goal. Look how many 1-0s. I guess it still wins, but
Well, that was the thing, right? It's the 1-0 grinding victory of Berhalter ball. And that's what we always tell people. It's always like the one I always go back to is the Canada game in Gold Cup where we went 1-0 up in the first minute, and then it was nonstop onslaught by Canada.
Yeah,
we still won. Great.
But it shouldn't have been an onslaught.
Such an ugly game, though. Yeah. So he played 21 games against non-CONCACAF teams, and again, not his fault. I'm sure he would have loved to have played against better teams that played at previous cycle generations. Before,
you think? Because you look at this list, where are the Brazils? Where are the Argentinas?
Exactly. That's what's going to be my point coming up here. Because when we start talking about people like Bradley over here on the right hand side, Bradley actually played Brazil 4 times in his tenure.
Lost them all, right?
Lost them all. Yeah. So Berhalter had a 9-5-6 record against non-CONCACAF teams. It's not bad if you look at just the record, right?
Sure, it's not horrible.
But I mean, again, it's not against the cream of the crop. There's some decent teams in here. There's Japan's been on the up and up.
There are
We had our World Cup teams.
no Portugals. There are there's one Germany. That's
No
the best.
Spain, no
There's England and Germany are the top, and Holland are the top 3 teams he's played, right?
Yeah, 2 of them have been in the World Cup. So
because Ghana ain't your grandma's Ghana anymore. Uzbek and Oman are we should be beating Wales. We should be beating Wales. On paper, we're a better team than Wales.
Mm-hmm.
And we got 2 ties against Wales.
I
don't want to go. I don't want to go into like every game here and break it all down. But
no, we won't. We won't either. I have no intention on doing that.
The general idea is that you can't use his stats to claim he's the best coach ever.
We're not. To your point, we're not going to go down breaking all these games down. I do want to talk about just the highlights of of Klinsmann and Bradley in comparison.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, in Klinsmann, who, oh my goodness, he had 41 games against non-CONCACAF, and 17 of those were away.
Jesus,
he beat non-CONCACAF teams 19 times. Okay, he lost 16 times too, but he also played. I didn't realize how I had set up here, but you also have to go through the list. I mean, there's massive teams throughout this entire list.
Belgium, yeah. I mean, you shouldn't be losing to Denmark, but that is away still. Shouldn't be losing to Ireland, but it's away.
You got to remember who Klinsmann won. Klinsmann was the tinkerer. So even while away, we may have played against these teams, but he's always shuffling things around. Let's try this formation with this person over here.
Right?
I can't tell you how many times when we were actually covering this stuff earlier on, not necessarily in the later stages, but especially earlier on in his tenure, that we were talking about how he was setting players up for failure at times.
Jimmy Chandler being one.
So he played a ton of teams. A lot of his claim to fame was wins against Germany at home and away.
Mm-hmm.
He beat Italy away, came 4th in Copa. He beat Slovenia, Russia, beat Slovenia away. Russia tied, Bosnia away, Czech away. He beat Mexico and Azteca.
We beat the Dutch.
Yeah, away. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, listen, those are big games. Yes, they're friendlies, but they say something about what's possible, right?
Yeah.
Whenever we got the big game against England, which we tied, that's the best one we did. Holland, flop. Germany, flop. Those were the biggest 3 teams we played. We have multiple of those opportunities under Klinsmann, and some of them weren't flops. They were successes. So we beat Germany. We beat Holland. And I'm not saying it's a reflection of how great of a manager Klinsmann is. It's just you got to be real about who Greg is. Like, if you are going to use the stats to talk about how great Greg is, you're barking up the wrong fucking tree. It's just not how you do it. Watch how the team functions. Watch how the team plays. Watch how we struggle against CONCACAF teams that are weaker than they've ever been. Some of them, not all of them are weaker. Some of them got better. But many of them, the big ones, Costa Rica, Mexico, they're worse. They're worse than they've ever been. So you just can't look at how we play. And when you saw the way we played under BJ and Hudson against Mexico, then you're like, holy shit, I love watching that. That's beautiful soccer. I love watching Reyna as a CAM dominating the fucking field, being the field general. Why can't he do that under Greg? Well, Greg's figuring it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. So again, guys, the point to bring this all up, and Bradley's real quickly, I'm not going to go anything over mini games, but obviously the Spain win in Confederations Cup,
huge.
Massive. Coming in second place against that, almost beating Brazil, but then choked.
Should have beat Brazil. Half. Yeah, we choked.
Great.
Choked.
Tied against Argentina. Wins away against Switzerland, South Africa, and Poland. Against South Africa is nothing special, but again, it's an away win. And then he's also played against Brazil 4 times. And I bring that up, and we brought that up earlier, as far as playing Brazil 4 times and losing to them 4 times. As to the point of, you can't just look at the win percentage and say, well, he's the best. Because when was the last time Berhalter had to play Brazil 4 times?
And how many
anybody in comparison to that?
and how many island nations have we played? Island nations in CONCACAF. How many minnows have we played? We played tons of minnows, which is why Jesus Ferreira made the World Cup team, which is a joke, by the way. You don't bring the Pirate of the Caribbean to the fucking World Cup because there's no fucking goddamn island nations to play against.
Yarb.
Brett, did you also compare CONCACAF win percentage? That's the best apples to apples comparison. No,
But
it's not, Jack. And I just mentioned why it's not even a good in comparison because
Mexico
it ain't the
and
Mexico.
Costa Rica.
It ain't your grandmother's Mexico. It ain't your grandmother's Costa Rica. It ain't a lot
Honduras.
of teams.
It's not even their Honduras team.
No, it's not. They're all worse than they've ever been. And
we still came in third. Klinsmann topped his group in the World Cup qualifier.
Correct.
Bradley also got third place. I think it was third. The point being is you can't compare over the course of 12 fucking years. You can't sit there and say, well, Bradley or Berhalter beat CONCACAF teams 89% of the time, and Bradley only got like 72% of the time because they're different teams completely. But the point being is you can't just base it solely off that, which is why I was bringing up the games as a whole point is saying you can't use that as a comparison.
Right. So other things I will say before we close this out. If you had to compare managers, leave that up real quick, Brett.
Oh, shit, I just got rid of it.
Okay. I'll do it without it. So if you had to compare, Bradley and Berhalter are more alike than Klinsmann. Klinsmann is an outlier. He doesn't compare to either of the guys except for, like Berhalter, Klinsmann holds grudges. He holds grudges, and so does Berhalter. He holds grudges. Bradley, I'm not so sure about, but I do know that he wasn't like a player's kind of a manager either. I mean,
I don't think Bradley had the luxury of holding grudges.
I don't think he did either, but I also think the players listened to Bradley, they respected Bradley, and they didn't talk behind his back. That's not true for either Klinsmann or Berhalter. Players do talk behind their back. And that gets into the next question I think that guy raised, which is, wouldn't we have heard? Derek keeps talking about how weird the players think that Berhalter is. Wouldn't we have heard that in the media? No. Why would you have heard that in the media? You think they're going to give an interview and say Greg's a weird fucker? No, we're breaking that for you. We're telling you players are saying that behind his back, and we're not going to say who's saying it. It's that's not for us to say. But isn't it obvious anyhow? Have you ever seen such a weird motherfucker at interviews? Then Greg Berhalter must be the weirdest motherfucker I've ever seen. I mean, he's the most uncomfortable fucking motherfucking weird ass motherfucker that ever had to do soccer fucking interviews. Like Bradley is totally comfortable in his own skin. Grumpy? Yeah, Bradley could be grumpy. Jurgen Klinsmann didn't give a fuck. He would say whatever came out of his mouth. He was totally comfortable in his own skin. Berhalter, not so much. Berhalter seems like a guy who's a little uncomfortable with himself. Maybe because he doesn't trust who he is compared to who he was. And we all know who he was. He's the guy who used to ram his head against the fucking lockers at halftime and give himself a bloodied head, according to some of his teammates. Here's a guy who would treat his teammates, his other U.S. men's national team teammates, and talk down to them and be a big bully on the fucking field and make sure that they knew every goal scored against was their fault, not his. I.e., you can talk to Jimmy Conrad about that. He can relate that story to you. All right? Not a great teammate. A guy that was never wrong, that never made a mistake, and every goal was somebody else's fault. That's Greg Berhalter in a fucking nutshell. Now, I'm not saying Jurgen Klinsmann wasn't fucking stubborn too, but he's a striker, so you're worried about getting scored on. He was worried about scoring goals. So different thing there. But sometimes same kind of stubbornness, right? Between those two guys. Just different people. Micromanager, non-micromanager. Klinsmann, believer in individuals and creativity and the power of the individual on the field. Because he's a striker. Of course, that's what he's going to believe. Berhalter, a believer in systems, dogma. Totally different kind of person. Doesn't believe in creativity. Believes in caging creativity within a system. So totally different guy. Bradley, kind of a mix of both guys, but not a grudge guy unless you're talking about U.S. soccer. He holds a grudge against U.S. soccer.
It's a personal grudge, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess ultimately the whole conversation itself, where it stemmed around like our anti-Berhalter agenda, and I'm paraphrasing there. It's anti-Berhalter bias. I think is what he said. We're not anti-Berhalter, but we call out what we don't like. We did the same thing with Klinsmann.
We did,
and less with Bradley for me. I was more of a defender for Bradley. I was probably more for Bradley. What we probably all look at Berhalter fans now.
Yeah,
I was always sort of like the the glass half full, silver lining. Hey, this is a nepotism, that type of shit.
I agree. But it wasn't.
Yeah. So, but when Klinsmann was here, we all had our piece. We definitely praised him on games where he did well. We called him on when he called up players that shouldn't have been called up, started them, etc. Weird fucking formations to be playing, especially at certain games. We call that shit out too.
We did.
Same thing with Berhalter. We called the stuff out for Berhalter. We say, hey, your player management sucks. Your selection kind of blows.
Right.
You stick to your system despite the fact that it's not really panning out. Yeah, I understand you have 60% of the possession, but the other team has 2 goals on you and more shots.
So
you're not getting anything out of your 9. It's predictable as shit. And it's not a bias to call that out. It's just criticism.
Well, I agree. But the big difference as well is the reason that we didn't criticize Bradley as much is A, the player pool wasn't as good. B, we knew Bob Bradley was being as pragmatic as he possibly could with the player pool that he had.
I thought the empty bucket was a great formation for what we had.
I mean, he was being pragmatic. He knew we weren't going to rock the fucking possession meter against a good team, and he didn't worry about it. He thought about how are we going to play some counter ball? How are we going to lock down the defense and play counter ball? Because back then, that's what we had on the roster. That was what we could do. Now we have one of the best group of players and young stars playing in the best leagues in the world on some of the best teams in the best leagues in the world.
Especially.
And our team goes out and looks like they got 60 turds stuck in their colon that they cannot get out of their assholes. That's why we don't like Berhalter. He's suffocating. He makes our players look constipated. They don't have the freedom to be creative until just recently with Reyna playing those 2 halves. That was the first time we've seen that from Berhalter, and he had to be inspired to do that by Balogun being pissed, BJ doing it before him, Hudson doing it before him, because he's never done it prior to that. So don't tell me about Berhalter being a good manager, because I just ain't going to buy it. I'm not going to buy it until I see it, and I see it again, then I see it again, then I see it. I want to see some fucking consistency from Berhalter, the way he lines up, the way he plays certain players, and I don't even care about the results. I want to see us play good fucking football. That's all I fucking care about.
Larry, I'm bringing it up. Don't worry about it. I know you said save it for the next show, but we're still going to bring it up. I'll bring it up by the next show.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, again, with Berhalter, when the World Cup was out, and all of a sudden we started seeing him not playing the high press, we started seeing him sit back, but still the system for the most part. But it was at least a kind of a systematic change.
Mid block,
and all of a sudden, it was like, well, maybe he's learning. Maybe the high press he was pushing all qualifiers was more or less meant for just the CONCACAF teams, and when you play against quality teams, it's gonna be a little bit different. And we saw that, and we had a hope. And now that we've seen the Hudson, the BJ ball, what it could be, as long as the players are healthy and fit and where they should play, it looks like Berhalter may be leaning into that, or maybe he's just did that to placate the rest of us. And maybe he's going to take this Dortmund game and say, look, he's a winger. I told you all along.
He ain't admitting it, did he?
No.
So during the interview, he said, position. I mean, the whole formation thing's not important. Bullshit. It's not important. Because what it did was put your most skilled player in the right position. So, it's important. Dickhead. He's actually a dickhead, not a dick face. Can Derek name Green's GOAT goals?
Greatest of all-time goals.
GOAT goals. Well, the World Cup goal would be one of them. Outside of that, the other 2 must be for Greuther Firth, because quite honestly, he hasn't scored really any GOAT goals for anybody else. So
It definitely wasn't for Bayern. It definitely wasn't for who did he go to play for?
Stuttgart.
Stuttgart, yeah.
Yeah,
Wasn't there. So he had a nice free kick goal recently.
Yeah, so I'm not saying he hasn't had some goddamn good goals, but I mean, let's be really honest, Larry. He is in 2 Bundesliga. And right now, Greg doesn't seem to be paying much attention to anybody who plays in 2 Bundesliga or the championship in England. If you play in those 2 leagues, you're probably not going to get much of a sniff.
I don't remember the goal against France.
I don't either.
I don't remember that one, Larry.
It's not important, though, Larry. Time has passed.
You're the historical, or you remember all when it comes to history.
I've watched a whole lot of Greuther Fürth games, but I don't remember the one versus France at all. Was that a friendly?
That would have been friendly for before
the World Cup, right?
World Cup, whatever it was. Yeah.
No, it's before the World Cup. Yeah.
Yeah.
My memory for that kind of stuff. I remember we played France and that we beat them, and then of course France won the World Cup, right?
Yeah, we tied
them. So it didn't matter what we did there. It was a friendly, and I think Frank Leboeuf put it well. He said, "Oh yeah, you can't really compare a friendly even before the World Cup because it's not as much as you tell yourself it's important. It's not really that important. So you can't convince yourself that this is an important game because it's really not, right? You're getting warmed up for the World Cup." And not that Leboeuf played on that team. He didn't. He was talking about his own experience in friendlies, pre-World Cup friendlies. You're using it as a warm-up. You're not going balls to the walls because guess what? No one also wants to get injured right before the World Cup. Yeah. So you're going about 80%, really. Okay. I was trying to do Frank Leboeuf. So, yeah, I tried my best.
You started off very Canadian-esque. I thought whoever was a Canadian guy because we started wording it.
No, he's French.
I know.
Right?
I'm just saying it sounded very Canadian at first.
I actually do better accents when I'm not on the show. When I get on the show, for whatever reason, I can't do accents anymore. That's why you have to rely on Pete for the accents because he's an actor. I am not apparently an actor. I can only do D-Rec, aka Michael Cameraman, because I've been doing it for years. So I guess I could do that, and nobody's really sure what that accent is. So
it's a goat.
Greg Berhalter is the best manager that ever managed the World Cup team and still lost to the Netherlands, but he still got flowers from the Reynas. No, he didn't afterwards. He did not. He got a poop in a bag on his hotel room floor door. Cajun? Yeah, I mean, we used to rely on Sam for the Cajun, right? Sam would be on the show. He'd do the Cajun accent with us, be drinking his whiskey. But Sam doesn't have a show anymore, I don't think. I think he stopped doing it. I think he stopped doing his show. All right. By the way, want to say Luchi Acosta is still not a United States citizen, as far as I can tell. But another option for that CAM spot, if Reyna is injured and Tillman has a left testicle pull, but he's got to become an American citizen. I heard he applied to be. I have heard nothing since June about whether or not he is a citizen or not a citizen. I mean, listen, the dude's playing great in MLS, and he is like the player for Cincinnati. He's like the dude, right? But so you could have Reyna, Tillman, and Acosta as your third. He's still bench material if Reyna and Tillman are healthy. Or he doesn't make the team at all because you really only need 2 of those kind of healthy players, right? Tillman, Reyna, 2 CAMs. But I have to say, he's impressive. He's impressive. Just haven't heard anything on that since. Also, as we close the show out, I do want to have, I want to, first of all, make sure you like, subscribe, share with your grandma. That's all important. Make sure you do that. Like is really important. Subscribe for certain. Now, we didn't even announce that we broke 3,000 subscribers. We never mentioned it.
Yeah.
We never said a word. But yes, We are now beyond 3,000 subscribers. And the great thing about all of you is, unlike guys with like 12,000 subscribers or 30,000 subscribers that get like 10% of the views of their subscribership, we are usually really close to almost like 80 or 90%. So we want to thank all of you out there who are dedicated to watching the show. Yeah, we really do. We appreciate that shit. You will not know how much.
We're actually up to 3,200 or 3,020 right now.
Right. That's great.
Moving on up.
Appreciate it, guys. We really do. Also, if you have any questions, I heard about this scenario where this guy had unsubscribed. Thanks, Myanmar. This guy had he had twin stepsisters.
Oh.
And his father married this woman, and they were all about the same age, but there were twins. And he was attracted to both of them. Well, obviously, they're identical twins. And they were a lot alike. So they were both coming on to him, and he wasn't sure what to do about it. If you're having that problem, let us know. Give us a call. We'll help you work through it. Write us an email. Send us a Twitter. We'll work you through that. Not that I have any experience, but I
got some single listeners who might be able to help out.
Right. But that does sound like a really complicated situation. I would totally be into talking about with you. All right. Until the next time on the Straight Red Card, we will see you Thursday. So hang in there. Good night.
But she's a trap. She's an unsung novel. Turn a lap and get your whole world dazzled on the line, or a phone call with or without wine.
That hurt.
I'm tuned in like crazy, and I'm pretending like I know what they're doing, and I'm
articulate and intelligent.
Greg's a bitch.